Testing, 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 testing. Good morning, APM. It is currently 11:01 a.m., 43 degrees Fahrenheit, with lows going down to 37 degrees, wind speed of up to 11 miles per hour, and humidity at 49%. Coming at you live, we have Andreas Exertus on the ground with your daily local weather report. Andreas, to you.
Bro, that's pretty good. I was just setting up the stream. I saw Jim playing guitar. I thought it'd be like a preamble. And then I was just loading up the F chat. I was going to go share it in the F chat, but like people already shared the video in the F chat. So it's already going. So I figured I'll share the link in the comment section here. Boom. For those who want the uncensored chat. I think Stefan's coming. I saw him for a second, and then he
Walk one, me brethren, Stefan, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
I.
There he is.
Almost.
I was just watching Alf, and I forgot how much you remind me of Alf, bro. You really are.
Everything is wrong with Tim.
You're like Jamaican Alf. Yeah.
You were watching Alf?
Bro, I watch Alf a lot. It's crazy
Guilty
how much
pleasure.
it's crazy how much money it costs for them to shoot that, because like the guy who made the show, Paul Fusco, was always obsessed with pretending that Alf is a real alien. Like he's not just.
Is that what happened to Alf? They shot him? No? Oh, wait. Oh, no. You're saying they shot the show. Sorry.
They like built tunnels underneath the sets so that none of the people watching the show could ever see the puppeteers, and he was supposed to they wanted Alf to host Saturday Night Live, but he demanded that they build like an underground thing so that the audience wouldn't see that Alf was a puppet, and they just couldn't. It was prohibitively expensive to make the Alf show. It cost like 3 times as much. It took twice as long to film as any sitcom, and they were all exhausted, and the dude who played Willie, the husband and dad on the show, like attacked Alf. And I don't mean like he attacked Paul Fusco. He attacked like the puppet Alf and tried to destroy the puppet because he was so angry at the puppet.
Nice. Well, now we're
did he end up dry humping the puppet in some sort of like sexual frustration or rage?
I did hear that he had some weird, like, I don't know, weird's a word. We had some very like American
John C. Lilly stuff.
He had some serious sexuality. Willie
I mean,
was,
one of my friends told me
on
their security cam, they saw one of their friends who was house sitting for them do something rather strange with a set of pool noodles. Well, he thought no one was looking, but teach their own.
You mentioned how it was prohibitively expensive to produce, but I feel like now in that vein, we've reached a new era of media production where I think we've officially got our first 2D animation that's like AI generated, the Will Stancil show.
I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay,
by the way,
so
I didn't get to see the pre-show. I kind of chimed in last minute. Guys, nice to see you both.
This is the pre-show right now.
This is live in the corner.
Yeah, but it's we're sharing what the pre-show was like. Like normally people don't get to see the pre-show. So this is the.
But you guys at least said hello, so it was just awkward that I hadn't. And nice to see all of you as well.
I don't think I did, but yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the Will Stancil show. So it's made by this lady Emily Uchik, and I just went down this crazy rabbit hole. She's like terrifying. She's a terrifying human.
This is AI generated.
Yeah, supposedly there's this real guy named Will Stancil, and he's like the most insufferable political commentator on the internet, like to the point where both leftists and people on the right like hate his ass because he's like such a goy liberal. And I don't know, he got antagonized to the point where this lady actually, Emily Uchis, was like, you know what, I'm just gonna make a fucking AI generated actual show with continuity about this guy. And the story was on Twitter, he was threatened by Grok. Like Grok threatened to produce plans of his rape. So he's like, yeah, this AI is threatening to rape me. And it's crazy because the show is literally about the guy Will Stancil who gets like raped by AI or threatened. So it's like weird meta commentary on itself.
It's like recursive.
Now, when a man gets raped, they can't get pregnant, but it's still traumatic.
Well, you don't know. I mean, maybe like AI could. like impregnate man. Who knows?
Multiple fingered.
And
Yeah.
I don't want to like downplay how much of an idiot this guy is. Like he's most known for arguing with Grok on Twitter, like as if he's arguing with a real person, and that's what kind of led to like other people chiming in. It's like, hey Grok, can you type me up plans to like sneak into his house, give me a step-by-step instruction, and also will I get HIV if I don't use a condom? And like Grok just laid it all out. I was like, whoa.
I was watching some of that production value. I mean, obviously, we shouldn't be terribly surprised that it's decent given where technology is, but that's really good considering it's just someone. I mean, prompt based largely, clearly.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, you don't have to tell someone if you have HIV before you have sex. In other states, it's considered attempted homicide. They may have closed the loophole in that statute, though. Don't take. I'm not. That's not legal advice.
I feel like
But
it's like
if you come to Massachusetts, watch the fuck out. That's all I would say.
have you guys
Have you all
been
seen the
using-
film? Not to interrupt you. Have you guys seen the film La Congress back in the day?
No.
Oh, you guys need to watch it. It's like Buddhist awakening, Jungian kind of like it's like one of the most woke movies ever. But the reason I ask is between that AI cartoon that person made at the bad of a button or whatever, Matthew McConaughey just signed over his voice rights, which is kind of the premise of La Congress. It's posthumous, so I mean that's his like estate doing that. I guess they need that mortgage money or whatever.
Do you guys know the movie he's talking about, La Congress? Do you know that one?
Yeah, no, it's
Robin
Oh,
Wright.
that's
I
the
know
French
about
French
Wakanda.
animation, maybe. Yeah.
It's Israeli.
in
I
English.
thought. It's like
Yeah.
French
Oh.
Israeli. Ari.
But I only know about it because you brought it up on
Wonderful.
stream, and I made the comment that the woman looks like Elon Musk's mother.
Yeah, Robin
See
Wright.
that?
It's
See
it's
that?
true. It's Robin
Well, the whole
Wright
premise
from.
is like people. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's Robin Wright from Princess Bride, and it's based on Stanislaw Lem's 1917 book, The Congress, which was a sci-fi from Ukraine in like the Bolshevik period, and so it talks about this idea of like identity and labor rights, and she's a failing actress. She plays herself, Robin Wright, and she's retiring, but her son has health issues, so she needs to sell her likeness so that they can use it, and then she can get paid
In perpetuity. There's like
perpetuity.
it's like the Matthew McConaughey sitch or the animation thing. I mean, we're getting into those kinds of waters.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up.
Then people evolve into taking drugs that make them feel like the likeness of other characters. So you can take a drug that makes you like Jesus Christ for like a
Very
half
brave
hour.
new world.
Yeah.
For your everyday creator or / animator, I guess the main tool is what, Sora? Is that what everyone's using to?
I've been
produce
using
these-
Sora. Ian Crossland's been using Sora. What's up, Vincent? Good to see you. Ian
Hello,
Crossland's been
Vince.
making tons of Sora videos. I was going to try to share one of them. Here's Ian's new one.
This software update. We've always been training ourselves.
Hold on. Where's my? I made a couple here. Here's some dress.
I'm sinking! It's pulling me under! Hold on, I'm coming! Grab the rope, Ian! Wrap it around your wrist, yeah, like that! Got it! Cool! Keep your chest up! 3, 2, heave! You're out. Easy, I've got you. Just need a...
You like,
Can't breathe! Ian, hold on! It's swallowing me! Take my hand! I've got you!
This is actual slop. Like,
But I saw one of him make
he's drowning in graphene, of course. But you can do a lot with Grok too. I made a Grok one of Cartman, and I said, Cartman says it tastes like crap as he throws pasta at the wall, and it sounded like Cartman. So I think we're pretty far along, which is pretty impressive how far you can go with and how well it's trained that it knows how to animate it, and it also has the voices. That's pretty impressive, right?
So given that there was just a recent study that said basically each iteration of a generation, like every new generation's losing 5 base points in their IQ, how do you guys feel? Yeah, I know we're getting idiocracy real quick. As much as awesomeness is like clearly that was pretty high quality shit and interesting, but like are we lobotomizing ourselves? Like here we are now, entertain us, gone wrong. Like I'm curious because you use
I
a
think
lot of
that the stocks in baby oil will go down if celebrities stop existing. There will be like no reason to buy baby oil anymore, right? So, like just by getting rid of celebrity power and people are able to make their own music and make their own art, it destroys celebrity. And I thought it would happen a lot quicker, but obviously UDO and UMG's thing now. There's an option between Suno where you can make your own art. And then there's an option for remixing, right? UMG Records is going to make it so when you buy the new Taylor Swift album, instead of like being like, did you listen to the new Taylor Swift album? People will say, what music did you make with the new Taylor Swift app. You know, what's
Yeah,
the
but-
new, did you get the new Kanye algorithm? What music did you make with the new Kanye algorithm?
That's
That's
possible
going to be
future.
Well, for
That's
music
what-
producers, that's like, did you get the Vengeance sample packs? You know, like, yeah.
Yeah,
it
What
is.
did you make
Sample
with that
pack.
shit?
That's going to be a choice like between designer genes and generic genes, like designer music and generic music. Like, can you make your own pseudo
Gattaca,
music?
social media.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it could be that the lobotomy is part of like the deprogramming of the previous structure and system that we had, and now we're ushering into a new system, and that requires cutting out psychically the part of us that was the old MK Ultra program or whatever, and now
Put on
it's gonna
Aquarius,
be
baby.
Age of Aquarius.
But losing a portion of your previous self doesn't have to be a lobotomy. Think about like a tadpole that
No,
goes
I
to
know.
a frog. And so
I just used the word because he did. That's all.
Sure.
Well, the question is like, let's say you are just an animator, for example, and now you have a lot more freed up energy and time because, you know, you outsource all of this labor essentially to instead of Korean slave labor, you just throw it all into these AI algorithm, these models.
Well, see, unfortunately, I have a friend who's like, you know, in charge of graphics teams over the past few years, working for the founder of Vine, and now actually working with the founder of Napster. But more and more is expected of the individual. And yes, you can respond to the input that you're getting and change. You know, it's like, oh, I want that character to look older and wrinklier. And now you just type in those words and you can get a few different iterations of it. Whereas before you'd actually have to go back by hand, but there's still a process where, again, I feel like the technology ends up devaluating the work of the creator to some extent, unfortunately.
Sure.
You know what it reminds
I
me
mean,
of?
literally.
It's
Go on.
it's like it's pastiches in people's lockers back in the 80s and 90s when they like clearly a photographer went on set and made a fucking whatever album cover or, you know, teen magazine or whatever the fuck, and then somebody in their locker cuts it out and makes this awesome thing. So it's like a 2.0 mixed media thing from their perspective of influence. But this is just like, you know,
Dude,
Ray Kurzweil's wet dream.
Well, speaking of the
Yeah.
Ian Crossan
Like
one,
a-
though, because I know Ian, or he was visiting, just 5-second
really-
thought, was those videos are free to create. At one point, Timcast released a music video with Ian in some sort of dreamscape, and they spent significant amounts of money, and I think he said he used AI on it or something, but this was
very
before all that
early
was
on,
released.
yeah.
And,
That was like stable diffusion stuff with Kent. That was pretty good, though. I'm glad they did that. I don't know if you saw this comment, though, on the F chat for the Exertus. It says Anon 676100001, which is, you know, good reference. Hi, we won't have music in the future. We will rely on AI to generate a perfect song for our specific brain patterns at a specific moment. Having a favorite song will be considered autism.
That's exactly what happens in George Orwell shit. He's like,
That's
look,
what
they write
happens
books. Like they think for you, and to a degree, especially as a musician, I mean that's horrifying. But I don't know. It's gonna take all kinds. I guess there's gonna be a whole swath of people that find this liberating in almost a Marxist way, where it's like I have the means of production, yay. And then there's going to be a whole swath of people who are like mediocrity is being celebrated and the shwill is real. And I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's like literacy. I imagine there was Plato's and Shakespeare's, and those are very different necessarily qualitatively than, you know, the guy stenciling, you know, eat my shorts on the fucking wall in Rome or whatever.
I don't know how different anything is anymore, right? Like, so the other day I was at the Rice University and we're talking about philosophy, and I was saying, you know, there was a famous philosopher who said, "All I know is I don't know anything," and then they were like trying to guess who it was, and they said Plato, and I said, "No, Machine Gun Kelly." Because Machine Gun Kelly has that song, "All I Know Is I Don't Know Nothing." And I was like, I was pretty sure like Plato must have got it from Machine Gun Kelly, you know? And it was, I mean, but you know, that's where we're at with society. It's recursive. And people will think that, you know, Plato is better because he's older, but how much better is Plato than Machine Gun Kelly really? You know, isn't that
Hemlock
just sort of,
Kelly? Someone be a rapper. Hemlock Kelly.
I don't really like Machine Gun Kelly. I feel like if I met
I
him
mean,
in real life, he would like just look at me as subhuman. He'd be like, "Why is this fucking
isn't he
creature
the subhuman is the point?"
He's a sellout.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
And-
you have
and
people,
he's on sub.
He's got so much
just because
fucking
you
money.
have just because you're a sub doesn't mean there isn't people below you.
Yeah, I feel
your
like
mind.
I think we overestimate or over romanticize Socrates though as well, right? Why is
Sure.
Socrates so cool? Because he was
Didn't he like develop?
he was the
he
Machine
invented
Gun Kelly.
logic?
of the time. Did
He
he
invented
invent
logic.
logic? Did Machine Gun
As
Kelly
we know
invent Did
you
Machine
were
Gun Kelly
fine.
invent rap?
Well,
You
so
know?
I think that's the point. Like, why do we idolize these people?
No.
Shakespeare, Socrates, whoever, Beethoven?
No, yeah.
Because they upgraded the fucking platform for other users to interface ultimately. Bach was on a different wave necessarily than other monkeys, or Da Vinci popping the Renaissance cherry for everybody. I mean, perspective before that was not happening, and that's like a whatever Sora 2 update for the culture at large.
Right.
That
Well, that's
doesn't
the
mean the
thing.
creative spark wasn't there, but
Socrates-
it wasn't apprehending.
Socrates was revolutionary, and now we're in a new revolution.
I
One
think it's
that's
just about.
necessarily
I think it's-
dehumanizing.
It's
though.
literally just
It's
a new
not.
cycle.
It's not so much that Socrates was revolutionary. It was
was.
that he was a good time. So things happen sometimes too early for people, for audiences to get or care about. And so Socrates happened
Yeah, at the right moment.
for people to get educated people. There were Greeks that were open to romanticizing geometry as, you know, like also this sort of oracle of philosophy was a transmutation of religion.
Yeah, but in Socrates' case, do you think it was all timing, or do you think at least like maybe he did the work? Like, you know, 'cause
Yeah, there's
these
new
things-
thinkers, right?
I don't
They
know
say-
how much Socrates really did. I mean, I honestly, how much do we know actually that Socrates really?
No,
did?
I'm not
Wasn't just
talking about, like,
students using
actual-
his name. You know,
I'm not
It's
talking
like
about
the
actual
Dread Pirate
labor. You know, like being a failed comedian for long enough until like you hit it big, and you can't do that unless you keep doing it despite failure and shit.
I mean, I feel like
was
people just
Socrates
did- I mean,
Buddhist though? Because he kind of sat on his platform and people came and went, and even when the city was abandoned, he was still there. He grew a beard, and he was once like a young, strong, healthy man that was belting out his rhetoric. And then the Socratic method was named after him, maybe, or
Yeah, exactly. It's the Socratic method's named after him, but it still exists from an earlier period, like Thales, right? Thales or Thales, whatever you'd say, of Miletus. Like he was
Look,
you
when-
know, a rationalist. Rationalism
when I-
existed before Socrates.
Yeah, but when I speak of revolution, I mean like it's a cycle, right? Like you revolve, and so it's a revolution. He was revolutionary for that period at that right moment, and now Machine Gun Kelly. No, sorry, but you get what I mean. Like so,
No, really, I think that that's exactly right. Like people.
I saw what you
yeah,
did there.
but there was
People
there was
were
other people.
receptive.
There's other Socrates in our modern era, and they are not modern. They're probably more like
and
George Carlin than Machine Gun Kelly.
Taking that metaphor further, like what is Machine Gun Kelly? Machine Gun Kelly is a white rapper, so he's a wigger, right? And the
Can you
Greeks.
say
Well,
that?
he's also
Do I have to
a
say
Wemo.
wigger or wigga? Like I don't know if the hard R.
I don't know. I didn't know.
There's a little.
I never
this
really
might
had
be
a-
pushing it, Andres.
I feel
He's
like-
also a Wemo.
I feel like the Greeks were the wiggers of their time, right?
I
Like
tell
they're
people you can
studying
call me a
African-
ginger because we're in Boston, but if you use a hot R in the ginger, you know.
Yeah, like Nietzsche, you know.
It's strange. Every day I go to the local juice shop and I order a ginger shot. Eventually, that's going to get
The
catch up.
local
Yeah.
Jew shop.
Juice. It's a Jew's diet, as they said.
Okay,
in
well, now
Modern
I'm
Family.
embarrassed, finally.
The little
Thank
kid
you.
was. No, I swear they said they were on a Jew's diet.
Yeah, but you want organic juice. You don't want your juice from concentrate.
All right. So we got Wigger Socrates.
Have you guys seen a picture of Nietzsche without a mustache?
No.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
still
I did.
speak.
now.
He looks
We
like
still
me.
speak the languages that are descended from Greek as well, and from the languages that Socrates spoke, and people recorded history and then built on his work and referenced him in their work throughout the centuries. And so, but if there had been some sort of discontinuity, no, I think
I mean, just the, like
it's a lot more
Pythagoras and
precious. I think the fact
Archimedes-
that we have any information from thousands of years ago is really a miracle, and that this whole thing could collapse and no one would ever build a rocket ship or a computer ever again.
Pythagoras and Archimedes both studied in Alexandria, right? And so, really, Alexandria in Egypt is alchemy is a study of Kemet, right? So there's this African school of education. You go to Timbuktu, and they have universities that existed before people. They were learning how to make writing systems for people that didn't know how to read yet, right? And Phoenicians kind of eventually took hieroglyphics and symbols to new places, but symbol-oriented programming. That's a whole different language or rhetoric or semantic structure for people to teach the uninitiated versus the initiated. And the initiated were based on some sort of a Pi language, so Sanskrit related language that the Greeks originated from. So I think if you were to listen to certain kinds of new wave music from the 80s that use electronics like Brian Eno, like and then to say today every music uses the techniques that were invented by the avant-garde. That's kind of what Socrates is. Socrates is the NSYNC band. Socrates is the mainstreaming of Logic. And it was important because so many people were interested in it at that time.
Right.
But there were already not just zeitgeist, but civilizations that had come before that were obsessed with Logic. It's just the Greeks were at that moment peaking into their Logic phase. I mean, Greeks were particularly.
He was like the Wachowskis, basically.
And how logical are Slavic people or Mediterranean people? Like, you know, I mean, Greeks are very superstitious people too. So the fact that reactionarily at the time they were so obsessed with Stoicism and Logic, there's a reason for it. It's because it's a punk rock move against you, Dad. You know, I'm going to believe in logic.
Oh yeah, Zeus isn't going to strike me down.
Yeah. Got in trouble for corrupting the youth, though.
And if people only believe in superstition, it's hard to conquer them and then convince them that they're still okay or that they don't need to just refuse to assimilate. You know.
Yeah.
And there's a hundredth monkey kind of phenomenon. I mean, granted, what Andreas is saying, that like there's a movie called Tree of Life by Terrence Malick, which shows kind of this dinosaur, right? That scene with the dinosaur where it's like compassion coming on the, scene for the first time or whatever, evolutionarily speaking.
Dude, Texas house right there. In Terrence Malick's an Assyrian Texan, so he's very strange.
He's very Gnostic. Knight of Cups is pretty Gnostic as fuck. But anyway, what I was getting at is like there seems to be punctuation events. Just like if you watch a Mandelbrot tour with Chaos Math, it's like the algorithm changes dramatically, but it takes a minute for it to become ubiquitous. And then there's another punctuation, as punk rock you might put it, Andreas. So it's like, meet the new boss, same as the old boss kind of thing.
It's like Quest for Fire.
Huh?
Sorry, the invention of the missionary position.
Was that invented?
Well, someone came up with it. Yeah, they made a movie.
Who was the first person to eat an egg? That's what I want to know.
They made a movie called Quest for Fire, and it's about cavemen.
No, yes. Well, think about it. All of our ancestors had teeth and claws. So doggy style was pretty much your best bet. You weren't going to go face to face, really. It wasn't as the
until they did, right? And then that was a diplomatic turning point between tribes because it was the invention of consent.
You just reminded me of Lord of the Rings, where they're like, you can't tell the women from the men because they're beards. It's like beards. I wonder how feminists would feel about Cro-Magnon. Like,
well, it's not that it was because bonobos have consensual like social sex all the time, and it's just that
good for them.
It's just that it's not an inviting thing when the forward facing of something with claws and even a jaw that's very. I mean,
you gotta look cute.
We're a domesticated version. When you domesticate a species, it gets thin skin. It gets a smaller brain, and it gets smaller teeth and smaller claws. And our fingernails are pretty unique in the animal kingdom. It's like we're highly because whatever we came from was probably again 30% larger.
And something definitely came
yellow claws.
Something came down and messed with us, man. Something made us cuter. The aliens were like, see these like monkeys? They could look a little cuter, and we'll fix that. We'll give them bigger eyes.
I think we were bred to feed to the large beasts because eating an animal with fur. Eating an animal with fur and or feathers,
like pigs,
gets in your mouth.
About owl pellets, like when they spit out the bones.
Okay, hear me out.
So you have giant dinosaur birds.
Okay, what if
tasty bald monkeys.
Like right now people are trying to genetically engineer cat women, right? So what if an alien species did that to us? They made us cuter. They turned us more fuckable, and then they came down and crossbred with us.
I mean, how cute were we? Like, if you look at the Homo sapiens, I think they were hairy and gross, except
That's what I'm saying. We got cuter and cuter over time.
But look at animals like wild wolves compared to chihuahuas and the bald cats. It might be domestication, and through domesticating animals, we domesticated ourselves, and we might have made ourselves more.
But there's loads of cute animals out in the wild, right? It's not. It's like if they're rare.
Well, no, because again, as far as an animal that you want to feed either to yourself or to something else, we keep ourselves clean. We scrub we have these instincts. We were over millions of years bred to be something that could be eaten if we were having a naked orgy outside. In our communities, our childhood is like 10 years, 18 years before you're really fully fledged.
This is just like pigs. We're these hairless little pink pigs, just rolling around in the mud.
But pigs, when you release them into the wild, that they will grow tusks and fur. So if you take a domestic pig out of a farm, No. Usually, most animals, it's with a pig. The very same pig. It's an epigenetic trigger that happens if it gets released into the wild.
Yeah. I mean,
And
no,
so
I
it's
mean,
not
like within that genetic line, apparently within 2 generations, it's just fully feral. Like all the domestications just phased out, which is pretty quick in my opinion. I don't know. Like I
But
don't
imagine
really
if
know
we
the
went to
timeline.
That's
live into the
reassuring.
jungle and we grew like
Tusks.
tusks and fur. I mean, that'd be
Okay.
pretty.
So
Pretty
it
far
could
out.
be that if what we eat, we make it cuter over time as a form of like sanitization or like just genetic picking. That it could
Aesthetics.
be
Disney
it
effect.
could be that, but it could be that
Right.
that transforms us over time because we are what we eat. So we keep eating cute things, and then gradually it's making us cuter and cuter and cuter.
It's like a
We're
Marshmallow
just
feedback
pure
loop.
breeds. The genes are still there. You've seen people with a birthmark that it's like suede, like their whole arm. It looks like a chimpanzee or gorilla, like short nappy fur, and it's like leathery skin, and so all of a sudden there's a glitch in the matrix in the DNA, and some people have an expression not just of like hirsute all over the body, or I think it's called congenital something like that. But
It's like werewolf disorder kind of thing.
yeah, and there were kind of circus troops that all the kids in one family with kind of hairy faces. But no, this is beyond that, where some people the birthmark resembles more animal pelt than it does.
Yeah,
and I think in the concentration camps they were experimenting where if they leave people outside for 2 hours or 4 hours or 12 hours or 14 hours in the freezing cold, when you bring them back in, does the frostbite heal? And does it heal with? In certain cases, they recorded that the stuff that grew back with the
Well,
skin.
you know,
Raised by Romans
I-
are raised by wolves, right? Like we're
Humans-
supposed to be descended from feral.
Humans change so much. We're like hyper adaptive, like xenomorphs or something. But it's I don't know. I guess it could be that every single mythical creature that's a biped was probably some human that was transformed by their environment to a great degree. Like Lord of the Rings, for example, like all the different species of humanoids in there. I've met people who are orc-like. I've met people who are like hobbits. I've met people who are like elves, like all
Watch
of
it, buddy.
But I don't I don't know about Balrogs, but how much can we really change? How much can we really adapt? We have dormant genes inside of us that have been exposed to conditions that are so beyond anything we can conceive of currently that like who knows what kind of people it made. Mole men, maybe, like people who lived underground, for sure. People who lived deep in mountains, for sure, they were changed physiologically. Their eyes changed, their skin changed. They could be. Who knows how far that goes?
Andreas, can you look up how many ribs we have on each side? I forget the number. If you don't mind.
I do know one of the crazy things about the sightings.
No one
One
knows
of
off
the
the top
coolest
of their
theories was
head. Nobody knows off the top. Okay, anyway.
12 on
ribs.
either side.
Okay.
I was
I
just
like
thinking
how-
about the Siberian boy, right? You know about Andrei Tolosk, who was raised by wolves after his parents abandoned him in Siberia.
Ooh.
There's all
You
kinds
guys
of
aren't
these
curious
stories.
to know why I wanted to know how many ribs are, but I don't.
No, I'm
Well, of
curious.
course, we're waiting
You
for
go
the
next.
punchline
Yeah,
here.
bro, where's the punchline? Yeah.
Well,
You set it up.
So, in the story of Adam and Eve, you take
Right.
one away from Adam, and it becomes Eve. Right? That's again. By the time
23
it's in
pairs
English,
or something.
right? So you have the
Well,
pairs
that's
of
taking it
chromosomes.
literally. I think it just shows symbolically.
Well, but there are
But the metaphor for
ancestors-
DNA chromosomes, because 23 pairs, 24 pairs, right? So our apes have 24 pairs of chromosomes, and we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So
and you can
23 ribs,
breed
one
an
less.
ape to have more or less ribs. So it's like before they mass produced us, they made sure that there was an allegory literally written into our body, about our chromosomes and the ribs and.
So genetic Gattaca Adam Cadmoning. You guys don't know what Adam Cadmon is. It's the astrology. The whole zodiac's your body. Basically, head is Aries, feet Pisces, and everything in between.
Thank you for revealing your inside jokes, boys. We appreciate this.
I love these punchlines. They're great.
So Adam Kadmon, explain. This is the astrology. Or the primordial man. There, Kadmon, primordial.
Learn us on it. Is that what they? Yeah.
Kabbalah.
please.
Well,
No?
long story
Summarize
short, I
everything,
mean,
yeah.
every zodiac sign corresponds with a lot of things, but with body parts. So the Aries rising rules the head. So they might look like Bobby's World, or they might have a Goomba from Mario movie head, but the head is like the mojo center. Taurus is neck, Gemini is the arms, which is like duality, the twins, your ambidextrous nature. It goes the whole way down to your feet with Pisces. And that's kind of what someone, I forget who said, but they were like, the hologramming is inferring itself with the design element. So it's like, all right, how do you, this is like the Tao howls kind of thing, where it's like, okay, the thing is uttering itself on multiple occulted levels, I guess. But I don't know if somebody would, like you were saying, because I don't know how literal Genesis is. I mean, what's the mark of Cain and all that shit? But and
Probably the
Nephilim.
DNA from his dad, the serpent.
It's the birthmark on your arm that looks like a wolf skin.
I was thinking about that
Our
earlier.
ancestors, that's an interesting allegory.
The
Also,
mark of
works into the
Cain,
Bible.
though?
Wait,
How
wait.
there was
Mark of-
one brother had no hair, and the other one was hair suit, and one survived, and one didn't.
Mhm. Yeah, because they're
That's,
half brothers.
Oh no,
right?
I'm mixing up Jacob and Esau and Cain
Yeah,
and Abel.
yeah.
Aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the story of Cain and Abel, you would think that one of them
Cain
could
is
walk well,
Lucifer's-
and the other one needed a cane to walk, but that wasn't the case.
Cain is Lucifer's son.
It's like
right?
the Cain and
Eve-
Citizen Kane.
Eve, so like before Christ, Cain, like the Antichrist is first because the firstborn, and so but the mother is the one that's important. So Mother Mary, Mariology around is overshadowed. The shadow overtook Mary, so she was impregnated by the shadow of the darkness, which is the God, not Lucifer. But Lucifer impregnates Eve with Cain, and so Cain is, like the half brother of Abel. So there's a point either when Noah's flood happens that everybody is part Cain or nobody's part Cain, or
It's also part angel.
or one of because like Lucifer is
The giants. No, but I mean the Nephilim.
But that means that like one of the wives of Noah's sons was probably a giant or descendant from Cain, right? At least one of them
It was a recessive gene.
could be.
Maybe they
Okay.
built incubators and it was a homunculus,
The Ark was an incubator. Digital Noah's Archive DNA.
I'm more interested in Enoch, frankly. I
Yeah.
find it more interesting. The Noah story has its limits, but Enoch is kind of boundless. He becomes the Metatron.
It's
Enoch
the
is
Warhammer
the-
40K of the Bible, Andreas. If you have, I have a feeling you've
Yeah, but,
read the
Enoch
book of
is the
Enoch.
real biblical
Yeah, how
figure. He was Noah's great ancestor. He lived to be 900 years old. He was brought
never
up by
died,
God
right?
to go to heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
never died.
When
Are
he
you
came back
guys
down,
telling me that if you were alive in ancient times, you would have figured out reproduction? That was one of the biggest hacks that if we were able to communicate that forward in generations. No, see what happens is you have a mama and a papa, and then you have a baby that comes from that after the thing goes in the thing, because there are places in the world today where children are raised and they don't know what a mother or father is. It's not that they don't have one.
Stork.
It's that there's just more of a communal existence. And it's
Or-
we take it for granted because the birds and the bees. Well, of course I know how it works. But if you're just living in a tribe of people,
yeah.
That's
you don't
why there was
know
a shift from the
how old
matriarchy
you
to the
are, where you
patriarchy.
came from. You just kind of
Yeah.
came into
Uh,
existence.
I mean, the patriarchy only asserted itself because
That's
people
it.
were like, "That's
Or-
my kid."
Well, yeah, but
And-
there used to be orgiastic societies where people
Yes,
would just
yep.
have these sort of group sex,
And it
and
would
now
be synchronized birth.
Used to. I mean, did you
That-
clearly?
no,
did
no,
not grow up in
I'm not saying
California.
I'm not saying that doesn't happen now, but it used
The
to be
Burning
the
Man
norm.
orgy tent.
Where it
And
was
women were just always pregnant, right? Because of these orgies, right? Or it's
And that was
or
like
they
Diana.
synchronized it.
Right?
it's
Like
part
the
of
mammoth,
communal-
you could call it a mammoth orgy during mammoth breeding season, but there was a time and a place, and they had to come across each other in the right weather patterns. And if you disrupt that breeding pattern a couple of times for the animals and the ritual, sometimes that's all it takes for the whole population to collapse. Whereas humans, I think we're a little
Like
more persistent
Toronto
with
in the
our
early
purpose,
2000s, right?
But that's why there was goddess worship, because it was the magical mystery tour of like, how'd that chick
Yeah.
get a bump on her tummy and where are the babies coming from thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when they figured
Never
that shit out, that's
feed
where you
Mother
get
Mary
dynasties.
after midnight, and don't.
But
give
it's
her
it's
away.
not
Water.
self-evident. It's really not. We all take it for granted, but
well,
without that information, life was a lot different. Maybe again, yeah, I don't know.
You know, in the modern era, there's another type of human who doesn't know what a mother is, and those are the lab-born ones that are used for a function.
I mean, isn't the
in,
idea
like,
that
government?
that
It's no longer
Mary?
about community.
Well, but they at least
Isn't the
know
idea
what a
that
mother is.
that Mary comes from Adam, and that the female comes from the male? Isn't that a weird satanic inversion anyway? Like it seems like a Deuteronomic trend, like because we know that from always from all species, it's the feminine that produces the masculine.
Yeah, but that's
But
the thing.
somehow that must have changed that, unless it's
That
supposed
connects to what
co-ed.
I'm talking about right now with laboratories. The people who make humans are mostly male when it comes to making them from scratch or making them in a test tube. Like most females are part of the experiment, you know. So it could be that that's what that means, is that that's when science generates people versus when women and nature does it.
But then that gets into like statistics of generational propagation, where it's like you can have a shit ton of guys who are all going to, have babies really quickly, whereas a woman takes a year-ish to have a baby. So it's like just number. That's why populations decrease.
Yeah.
It's like if there's not
And the
enough
only
guys,
reason men are doing it is
Sure.
because men do new things and women do things better. So historically, men are always trying to come up with some new club to join or create some new mutation. But if this becomes a company that's successful, then they'll put a woman in charge of the company to make sure that it runs right and more efficiently. Like men film movies as cinematographers because they're just shooting film, and then women will edit the film because they have to contain it. This is maybe true about genetic modification and cloning, that at the point that it's no longer new and evolving into a new field, then it'll be maintained by women. And there's plenty of women doctors now doing jobs better and more often than men did to begin with, when men invented.
I mean, if you were saying black people and white people and Chinese people, it would sound really racist, but sexism's fine.
Right now, at this hour.
And I'm not really
I was gonna say
disagreeing.
this-
I'm just being a shithead, but yeah.
But
Star
sexism
Wars
isn't.
franchise collapsed because a woman took the helm largely.
Kathleen Kennedy made Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and so many good movies that it's really. I think that really what it is the skeleton key. Like some demon took Kathleen Kennedy's body. That's what it's
Power
called.
corrupts.
So Wachowski's sister.
The dark side of the force.
Yeah, and I think the Wachowski siblings, it's interesting watching her happen. Let's say when you watch Speed Racer, like Speed Racer is a dangerous thing to watch because you can easily become transgender by doing it, right? Like, because it's a hormonal drug freak fest that just eventually destroys your ego.
Are you talking about the newest Speed Racer movie? The one that
from like
came out?
2000.
The one made by the Wachowskis.
That shit was
Yeah.
insanity, man.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what made her trans. She literally, like, if you watch that movie, you can see it happen. Like they're
She
becoming
alchemized
trans.
herself through
Right.
the film.
I
Yeah.
prefer Cloud Atlas there. I don't.
In New England, I mean, I was raised as a young boy to think that like
You were
the
raised as a
most-
young boy. That's good.
To think,
That was
to
really
think,
identified.
to think that.
every man was once a child
Society!
in this world. Every man was, but
Not all were young boys.
oh yeah, no, and actually raised as a boy.
Anymore.
No, and again, that actually doesn't belie saying now.
It fits. Yeah, it's true.
My pronouns are no, and I'm wearing a blue dress. Isn't that it?
Sorry, no.
But,
You were trying to say like what we were raised to believe.
Fearing the wrath of women more than the wrath of God, and thinking that
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Essentially the overall imprint that I've come to distill is that the male orgasm is gross and disgusting and wasteful and sinful and a sign of everything debaucherous and sordid and disgusting about.
That's the Jedi way to look at it.
But women's orgasms are divine and sacred and to be celebrated and cherished and worshipped. And so again, as long as we all understand that as men, is that we are disgusting human beings, the thing hanging between our legs that's exposed in public at any point for any reason.
Got to cut it
It's like
off.
one of the worst things that could possibly happen.
Besides breast.
It's like, and it's part of our body. And it's like even an accidental, like in the wrong situation, not only are you mortified, like potentially,
I mean, you don't want to go full Freud and think like everything's a dick, but like to shame oneself into hating one's gender is not the move, I don't think. Call me crazy.
Well, it's not that we have
just
to
a
shame
cricket
ourselves.
drop.
I would say that society is constructed this way. We all accept it. I mean,
Oh. Yeah,
okay,
well,
so if
now
a
it's
man does like something stupid and even like evil and steals, they deserve to go to prison to get raped. Whereas if a woman steals something and has like a family to take care of. Does she deserve
She
to
was
go to
fighting her
jail to get raped?
oppressors.
Like, no, nobody deserves to go. I mean, if you're going to go to jail again, that's a separate. This country is
Yeah.
founded on the idea of prison being a safe place because there are both people there that have not been proven guilty.
Get 3
and people
hots in
that
a
have.
cot in a shower.
A prison state can be very valuable because you can turn it into labor, right? And
Yeah.
so people talk about how slavery is prohibited in the United States, but they forget that it's not. As long as the state is in charge of forcing labor, everything's allowed. And
Didn't
people feel
Kamala
safe.
Harris get caught doing that using a lot of prison labor? Not only eventually for her like
Really?
Secret Service detail and protection. What happened was that there were rival gang members that recognized each other because they both got early release for good behavior and they were willing to put themselves in harm's way and they had the skills. And then there were like shootouts on the vice presidential campus lawn because.
Really? That's awesome. I mean, that's terrible, right?
So the good
That's
behavior was a
awesome.
masking, like a bonobo trying to get its way through sex. It's different. I'm curious how y'all feel about the fact that Adam Sandler recently announced, and I'm not a big Adam Sandler fan particularly anymore.
Who
He
is?
Well, What the Hell Happened to
You'd
Me
be
was
surprised.
hilarious at the time.
Hey, I'm a Jew from Boston. We fucking love that guy here. Come on.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, What the Hell Happened to Me, the GOAT, the sketch back in the day when I was like in third grade, that was hilarious. But now it's like he's not doing that quality of stuff. He's kind of regurgitating a bunch of shit.
No more Big
In any
Daddy.
event,
Grandma's Boy is one of my favorite movies. That's all.
Grandma's
His
Boy is
stand
great.
up, but
Yeah, I
I
don't know if
live
that's
that
him.
world.
he's
It's
his
been
not.
stand up,
he's
his stand up was
produced
pretty good. He made on Netflix.
I
That
don't
was
know
probably
that
the thing that he had the most heart in the modern era.
word. Yeah, he seems like he's been neutered, but the point I guess I was getting at is he recently announced that he's going to raise his kid on like gender norms that are like from the 90s, not like woke, post Matrix op stuff.
Do you go to a store to
So-
buy like 90s
He is
gender
old school.
norms? It's like, hey, I'm just gonna load that into my child instead of this bullshit.
I mean, that kind of reflects what he's doing with movies too. He's like, I'm gonna stick with my old patterns and like redo this thing. Here's Happy Gilmore 2. I'm gonna raise my kid as a gender normal person.
I had someone tell me yesterday that they didn't learn the word "see you next time" (CUNT) until they were 27 years old. Shit, you know.
I don't even know what gender.
That's how
norms
you
mean.
get away with saying "cunt" on major media outlets. See you next Tuesday.
I'm glad you picked up on what I was doing there.
Okay, good. I was just making sure. Like,
You guys ever watch?
He went to hedonism when he was 16, or hedonism 2.
Did you ever see this movie, Going Overboard?
No.
This is Adam Sandler's like first movie, and it's about like
I've seen this. Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, yeah, but what's a trip to me is it's about like a boat that's gonna sink, and it stars Billy Zane, which is like King Neptune, and he's Billy Zane from Titanic.
Mhm.
So in a weird way, there's like a weird synchromistic,
Echo.
probabilistic.
if
echo
Adam
to
Sandler from The
Titanic.
Wedding Singer tried to make a movie, this is what it would have been. Like the real, like somehow.
That's good stuff.
Instead, we got 8 Crazy Nights.
Bro, East Coast kids.
There weren't
making
even tits
movies.
in the
Come
movie.
on.
I mean, what's the point of this B-rate production? You're on a boat. And I don't actually. There might have been tits in the movie.
I think there might have been tits in this movie, but just
That's
generally
usually the point of the movie. Is you get in the casting process, you get to cast 500 women for 2 roles.
You have to remember, this is
because
another
there's going to
thing
be
is that
tits on
people-
camera, and you just want to make sure they're the right ones.
People weren't allowed to make movies for a long time. Like you had to have.
This is their Sora 2 moment, you're saying?
You had like Freemasons ran Hollywood, and then eventually because of Project Operation Chaos and James Jesus Angleton, there's the infiltration of the CIA into Mockingbird in Hollywood, and at that point they had a bunch of agency, and everyone always talks about the Operation Paperclip and all the Nazis that were in the CIA, but they don't like to talk about all the Jews in the CIA, and they weren't originally, right? Originally, Hollywood was not run by Jewish people, but because Hollywood's run by the CIA at this point, and they had brought in as many secret agents who could speak German or Russian and could be double agents for the Nazis, right? Who hated the Germans but looked German? Well, Jewish Germans. Like, who hated the Russians but looked Russian? Well, Ukrainian Jews. So they made really great agents, and then they started working in Hollywood, but they were also working in pornography. So you had a bunch of Jewish filmmakers who were artistic that were making pornography that finally made their way into making Hollywood movies, and they brought with it their skill set, which is great because Hollywood not only gets more pornographic, it gets way more artistic in the 70s and 80s because they have all these guys who made for TV movies or made pornography and had all sorts of artistic music video background and styles and skill sets.
People have asked me, why do you think Jewish people, outside of the Nobel Prize thing, but why are they more prone to creative type roles or job where they're doing writing or in coming up with symbolic meanings and layering
Symbolism might be the clue there.
So-
Yeah. Being
so
raised with enough symbolism helps.
Well, so very early on, there's something called Passover every year. It's the retelling of the story of Exodus. You actually do it twice, 2 nights back to back. And there's something called a Seder each night. And Seder means order. And so you go through a Haggadah, which tells, the story of leaving Egypt. And there's a series of items on a plate. And ever since you're a little child, even if you don't like spicy food, and spicy food usually makes you cry, you have to eat spicy, or you're encouraged to eat spicy food on during the Seder. During this specific part, there's a chopped up horseradish, and it's meant to represent like the pain and suffering of your ancestors. And
Yummy.
you're told as a 3-year-old,
Brilliant.
you're going to eat this to understand that and then you dip parsley in salt water and taste it to taste the tears of your ancestors.
Brilliant.
And so the 10 plagues is what come along, and the last one is the killing of the firstborn. Now my older brother, being the eldest in the family, until he was 5, 6, 7, was still pretty sure that each year when this holiday came around, that it's like eventually they were going to sacrifice the firstborn. That's what he said, right? He's like, that holiday terrified him until he figured out that it was just like, wasn't a story
Symbolic.
about now. yeah. I mean, your ability to parse what's being said in front of you when you're a certain age. All you kept hearing was that the worst thing that happened was that they killed the firstborn, but they did it anyway.
I watched Prince of Egypt recently, actually. It was a good
That's
rewatch. It was a really good rewatch. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's
They
fresh
stopped
in my
making
memory.
good animation like that
But-
right around then. That was the end
So-
of that style.
So it seems like the reason Jewish
Brother
people
Bear.
are into creative creation is because they can use it to create influence in cultures and societies, right? Like they have a life surrounded by symbols, so they know that symbols.
No, I'd say they're good at it. They're being exploited to
effect.
do that, though.
No, but I mean, it could be that they have just Jewish people are creative because it spreads the good messages that they know of, and now in our modern civilization, this has become the MK Ultra system through
Right. And
Hollywood.
I was just trying to
all
delve
these
into
things.
my own past and figure out what specific thing that I experienced might have differentiated me from my Christian friends or
you
from other
special,
friends.
yeah.
Sure.
I think another part of it is also like the Greek thing again. So a bunch of being forced into an exodus.
On the whole,
Into
yeah,
so many
it's a
different-
numbers game. It's not an individual basis. Sorry, go ahead.
If you get kicked out of your country or your nation state and you have to go to all these different places and you still have community, then you get multiple perspectives, right? And so you had Assyrian, Iranian, Persian, kind of Promethean, Hellenic, all these different philosophies. And a lot of Jews, especially after like the Babylonian exile, were, if you could, you'd want to be an administrator or an economics major or someone who was a manager or producer, something that was in charge of different things. You'd end up meeting other groups who have different perspectives and splitting those perspectives up. So Hellenics were interested in Plato, even just a few centuries before Christ. They were in the Greek region studying Plato's cave and this idea of Abraham being raised in a cave in the Midrash as a child. He's hidden from the rest of the world, is the reason why he's not interested in optical idolatry. And he's thinking about, like, what does God do for me? What has God done for me lately? Kind of a
Hold
philosophy.
on. In the Bible, it says he worshipped the sun, moon, and stars before he made his little walk through the dead pigeons covenant with Yahweh. So he was occult aware. He was pagan.
For
that.
sure. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know the whole, like, there's a cartoon you should watch, actually. Have you seen this? The young Abraham cartoon? Have you seen this one?
No.
This is pretty good because it's all about the Midrash, and it's stories that for some reason, like, we teach in Catholicism, but I don't think they're in the Bible. I think they're just in the Midrash. But yeah, basically there's one bit where his dad's Tarek is supposed to sacrifice him, and he rushed the baby out and he hides his son, and so he can't have his son anymore. So his son has to be raised in a cave And since he's raised in a cave, when he finally gets out, he's working for his uncles, and his uncle has a idol shop, and he smashes all the idols in his uncle's shop. And then his uncle's like, "Who did this?" And he's like, "It was one of your gods," right? He got angry at the other idols.
Wait, he treated them like a pool noodle. He smashed all. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The old because
and the uncle's
say
all
smash
pissed.
the like button, but I mean.
But these uncles like, my, come on, you're lying. Obviously, that idol did not come to life and smash all the other idols. Like, well, if they're not real, then why the hell are you selling these idols, uncle? You know. And that's a story that may be really old, but it's probably
It's kind of the opposite of George Washington, though. No,
it might only be like 200 years before Christ that they start.
It's like your father comes home and is disgraced. Like, oh my God, you chopped down our cherry tree. What were you thinking?
So it seems like a fractal, like a little with the Abrahamic thing. It's like, okay, they get inculcated in a new culture and then kind of turn on the old thing. Moses did that with Egypt, and he was a prince of fucking Egypt, so he knew some esoteric shit that was not Abrahamic. And then you've got Jesus going to Egypt or whatever,
or India.
So the story goes. Yeah.
Now, did Moses use lies and deception to blend in, or did he know eventually that he was not the king, the Pharaoh's son? I don't. And did Jesus use deception? That's a good question. Because we made it clear that Abraham used deception.
He used magic tricks. Magic tricks aren't deception; it's entertainment.
Actually, so I had a friend ask me this: the Jews, do we recognize Jesus and Muhammad? And that was the question. I said, well, we recognize them
or what?
As prophets, probably, just not the Messiah. And Judaism is a messianic religion where, if you read the scripture, it says everything's supposed to be a hunky-dory after he comes back. So there's a place in Israel where there's like a rock where when Jesus does come back, according to the Christian version of the Messiah, to like right all the wrongs, the funeral plots to get buried facing and like literally first in line. It's like a physical proximity. People want to be first in line because Jesus is going to come back there. And so people pay all this money in this one valley to get buried there, so that when Jesus comes back, they will be brought back to life and then forgiven for their sins. And it's like being pretty sure they're getting into heaven. They're willing to like bet that much money that
front row.
They're not going to hang in the back and hope that they miss judgment. They're gonna go up front. It's a bizarre.
Well, there's a bunch of different people that people don't like. Like Schneerson. Some Jews thought and think that Schneerson was the Messiah, right? Mendel Schneerson.
He looks like Santa.
But then those people inherently would no longer be Jews, though. You understand?
Well, they're Lubavitch.
Or according to what definition of Jew?
You think a Messianic Jew is not a Jew? I think being a Jew is a Jew, even if you're Messianic, right? Like it changes.
Well,
I had this conversation.
You're a good Jew or a bad
recently.
Jew, you're still a Jew.
I had this conversation exactly. I had this conversation recently because I was with
these. As a good Jew, but a dead.
I'm in Texas, right?
Can you be a completed Jew?
I'm in Texas, and I just went to a graphene. I went to do this graphene documentary, and what was interesting to me about doing this thing at Rice University with all these super scientists is that a bunch of the ones that were doing the weirdest, most crazy, most interesting projects were spiritual people that were like Christians, and I thought that was interesting because on one hand, you wouldn't expect science and Christianity, especially like mainstream in a Texas Protestant church, evangelicals, right? You wouldn't expect them to be so good at science. I mean, I don't know if you would, but for me,
Lord guides me to study physics and astrophysics.
Because like I consider myself a Christian. I love Christianity, but like a lot of the time I'll meet Christians, I'll get all excited that I'm going to meet someone who's going to talk about interfaith dialogues, and then I'm like, oh, they're retarded. A lot of people that consider themselves religious are not the most intellectual religious people.
It tends to be fire insurance as opposed to actual intellectual rigor for a truth.
But there are those, and when you find them, you're like, oh, thank God.
See, what people don't understand. No, I was raised Reform Judaism, which means I was raised as an atheist. My rabbi never once talked to the congregation about belief in God and faith and why it was important and how you need to accept this, that, or the other. No. Jewish religion was about, again, the Passover holiday too. The youngest person at the table asks a series of questions of the rest of the people. And then as people are old enough and they're able to read.
So it's like an Abrahamic Socratic method.
You're right.
Yeah.
Come reason
But
with
that's
me.
specifically just
I think I'm a
reform American Judaism. Even conservative Judaism is much more religious. My bar mitzvah service was 90 minutes, and I shared it with someone who is a conservative Jew in the town I grew up. 3-hour service minimum, and they're leading the whole thing. They're not just reading a.
Yeah.
And then you have Orthodox on top of that, and then kind of parallel to Orthodox, you have the Hasidic tradition as well. I feel like it's so. We outside of lumping Israel and Jews together. My experience being raised as a Jew was totally secular. We should eat bacon cheeseburgers on purpose to prove
it's the ethno-religious
God,
aspect. So
even if he existed, wouldn't be that silly.
It's like, do you think like ethno-religions are like a real thing? Like, do you think being like, can anyone convert to being a Jew, or do you have to be born one from like your mother's bloodline? Like, because to me, that's what a big difference between like Reformation and Orthodox is really about, is the fact that Reform kind of does allow people who weren't Jews to become Jews, whereas
yes, and it can be passed through the father as well.
Yeah, because that must be a raw deal. Like my mom wasn't Jewish and my dad was. You're telling me I'm not Jewish? Like what the fuck?
I feel like it cracks like a duck though. Like if you can like Shema Israel, right? And they probably
didn't Ivanka Trump just convert?
Yeah, but she had to.
She's got that Kushner fucking 666 situation going on. To rebuild the temple. Let's do it. Make the temple great again.
What's it mean to be Jewish, and what if you converted like your entire nation?
Well, yeah, to me, what being Jewish meant was I didn't believe in God really, but I also didn't believe in this silly fucking fairy tale about Jesus Christ. That was, and like I didn't want to raise my kids Christian. The mentality was A, because I don't want to brainwash them with any religion, and B, because I don't want them to believe in this fucking weird ass fairy tale and be scared of this guy. Like watching them judge Christianity.
So that's the thing. So for a lot of Christians,
shame and sin, and
a lot of Christians will not. I mean, there's a lot of Christians have this idea of like a Christ idol, and they use Christ as an idol that they worship for the sacrifice, and the blood sacrifice is this Cohen priesthood ritual. Like you read Deuteronomy. If you rape a girl, then you have to pay chickens, or if you stab somebody, you have to pay a goat. It's like this crazy thing where there's an atonement blood sacrifice for doing horrible things, even though an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. So Christ comes along and says, I'm going to give you a jubilee. I don't see any verse in the Bible where Jesus sacrifices a goat. Christ brings people back from the dead. He tells them they're going to go to heaven, that they're forgiven all the time. But there's never like a kipparot where he cuts a chicken's head off over somebody. He doesn't do sacrifices.
Yeah. Was Christ literate? He didn't write anything down himself, though. Everything is.
He might have, but like if you write stuff down, you get in trouble for it. So it's probably better
was he
that
literate?
people are writing about you. I think
true.
Technically, because they called him a rabbi, he must have been literate, and he must have also been married. That's like by definition. But they remove these ideas because they don't want you to know what he was really like. And then they introduced back the Cohenot priesthood Sadducee thing, which is that you need a sacrifice. So now
did Napoleon speak English?
Sacrifice. Now Jesus himself is a sacrifice, but it wasn't ever the point. The point was a mercy, a jubilee. And Jesus never talks about sacrifice. He talks about mercy and jubilee. So we've created this way of the Cohen priesthood continuing. And the more you look at it, that's what he was fighting against. He was a political revolutionary, saying that the Cohen priesthood had inserted itself into Isaiah, inserted itself into Deuteronomy, inserted itself into Genesis, even saying that Noah had 7 of every clean animal for sacrifices when there's no reason for a sacrifice after there's been a baptism.
As a Reformed Jew, all the stories in the Old Testament were allegories to teach you a lesson. These were not literal things to be interpreted.
I don't know. They were based on real things, though. Like people really did scapegoat sacrifices, for example. If they talk about scapegoats, then it's not.
Yeah, like you can go to New York and you can get a chicken cut over your head right now by an attorney. The Cohens are doing it.
But that's
the angel that they sacrificed to, like I think it's Azazel.
Azazel.
The angel of scapegoating.
Yeah,
like they would sacrifice to that and to Yahweh. And like maybe those are metaphors, but the actual like action of doing it.
And the they you speak of, though, these were dark-skinned, poor wanderers, people that were exiled. And so this modern day version of Jews as white and rich and in charge of anything is a fabrication of Hollywood, because they were trying to reform the image of
I
the
guess.
dirty, dark-skinned
Diaspora.
poor
Cohen,
Jew.
Cohen
But
priests.
you have people like
Cohen priests
Epstein.
have always been wealthier since 627 BC, right? Because all of
But
a
there's a
sudden,
theory
under
behind
King
that.
Josiah, they changed their. It used to be that any Jew could do their religious practices, and after King Josiah, only the Cohens. You had to bring money to the Cohens, which is why they're still Cohen attorneys, because they're dealing with law, because they were dealing with the law of God, and that's always been their thing, is to do sacrifices, right, and atonement.
I just read this, and I don't know if this is true because I'm not fucking that up on it. But basically, the idea is that usury, which is lending money on fucking interest, is anti-biblical or whatever. It's in the Bible. Don't do
Jesus
that
is
shit.
against it for sure.
Right,
Yeah.
but whereas Jews don't really follow that necessarily, so it's like they'll be the banking system, they'll be the money handlers because they can do this magic with the money that we're not allowed as whatever Christians post.
Yeah,
Paul.
that's how you get-
They know which lines in the old book to ignore so that they can feed their family. Oftentimes, again, these people were confined within the wall of a ghetto, and the only option they
Malskowitz.
had was to handle money on the days when other people weren't. That was the only industry. That was the only way to trade something over the wall for food. People
But that
starved
doesn't
to
even
death
get
in
into the
there all the
Saturnian
time.
Black and the cube of Mecca and the Saturn thing and all this stuff. There's a lot of levels. It's not. I mean, there's a lot.
And
of
again,
levels.
there's like tons. There are tons of characters that were accepted as potential messiahs. Here's like the Bar
But when it comes to
Kokhba
money,
revolt, right, in
I mean,
136.
so again, Christians, again, it comes through in your mentality too. You think about, is it a sin, and how much shame or punishment or how evil is that sin? And then, but again, what I learned about money growing up was that there were 9 forms of tzedakah, and tzedakah is a charity, and there's not just giving. The highest form of charity is giving in such a way that the gift will be received, but you will never get credit for it. And then one rung down from there is like, you tell one of your friends, I donated this money to this charity, or I left a box of goodies for so-and-so. And even if in all likelihood that there'll never be a gossip chain where that person will find out who left them a gift
But
by the door or whatever. But
this
so
might be a
there's a whole
reason
series of
why-
rungs, but the one on the bottom is still just giving and like writing your name and putting a plaque on something.
But
the
Simon,
yoga of money
Simon-
through Abrahamic stuff.
Simon,
But it's
Simon-
focusing on mitzvahs and good deeds as opposed to sins and
Well,
quantifying.
Simon Bar of Kokhba is 132 AD. This might be where Jesus goes from being a rabbinical revolutionary into a messiah, because at the point of Simon, he's rebelling against the Roman Empire in 132. It's unsuccessful, and the Jews are referring to him as the potential long-awaited Messiah. And it could be that this actually originated with why they changed.
I mean, the Jews is like the whites and the blacks, and some Jews did. I'm sure.
But there was a war going on to liberate Israel, or the kingdom of Judea, from the Romans, which was a
Like the
collapsing
Maccabees stuff.
empire. And from there, this idea of the return Messiah emerges, and people weren't always referring to Yeshua as the messianic return at that time, which is why Muslims have always referred to him as a prophet. And at the time, he's written, Christ is written as a rabbi, and that he says, "Ye are gods, we are all gods." Right?
Yeah, and
He's
heaven is
like
not
a
waiting for
universal
you when you die. If you're worthy,
Yeah.
heaven is eventually going to happen on earth if humankind can get our act together. And for all we can tell, it's going to take a miracle. And there's going to be some guy who comes back basically and waves a magic wand. There's no real explanation for the mechanism of the Messiah in a messianic religion. And but the idea is shit's kind of fucked up right now, and always will be until.
Let's just try our best, guys.
It's perfect.
Do it.
Well, it's a
But
Kali
the
Yuga.
reward for mankind is not heaven above after life. It's getting closer and closer to the day where it's like, oh, maybe the Messiah did come and go, and we didn't even notice because look around, things are great.
And people in the 5th century thought Moshe of Crete was the Messiah. Some Christians even thought he was the return of Christ, and other Jews just thought he was the first Messiah, like the ancient Moses, And this was another one in the 5th century, right around past the Council of Nicaea, that was already becoming a big deal. Abu Isa, the Jewish prophet of the 8th century, this is after Islam starts, and the Jews in that area start referring to a potential Messiah figure. But then Abu Isa is identified with the Dajjal, an anti-messianic figure by the Sunni, right? So the Sunnis start to say this is the Antichrist, is Abu Isa. And David Alroy, right? El David, 1160 AD, right? So, I mean, there's tons of examples.
Brother Jim, do you know how to play the song "Go Down Moses"?
Not off the top of my head. I don't even know if I know the tune actually. I'm thinking
Go
Swing Low, Sweet
down,
Cherry Love.
Moses, way down to Egypt land. You tell old Pharaoh, let my people go.
And we're almost up to Zabbatai Zevi, right? And Zabbatai
Worked
Zevi's
so hard we
Are these?
could
Are you
not
going through a
stand.
list of all the messiahs?
all the ones that people thought were messiahs, right? The messianic claimants, right? All the way to Schneerson, because I mean, there's probably even newer ones than Schneerson, but right now you go to New York, there's people cutting chickens over heads of kids who think that the Messiah is Schneerson, and I like Schneerson, so I think it's interesting, right? I mean, New York Jewish Schneerson Lubavitch are way more interesting than people.
But there,
realize.
according to
Lubavitch.
Christianity and pro-life people,
Lubavitch.
aren't any woman who has had more than one abortion, aren't they serial killers? And if you've aided and abetted or paid for more than one, you're actually like
Spicy.
you've aided and abetted. And so, like, if you actually apply the punishment of the law, that those people should be executed because they're, or at least quarantined or separated from the rest of society because they're fucking serial killers. They have an MO. There's a type of person that's less than them that they go after, and it's like weaker than them, and they're able to kill it, and they do it, and they've done it more than once now, and they're telling people that they would do it again. Sorry, and again, not that those are my personal beliefs. I'm saying that according to Christianity, again, the idea that someone cutting a chicken over someone's head is representative of something. Now, granted, the whole thing during the bris,
Obviously
I don't understand
The
the whole
Kaparat.
circumcision thing in general.
It has to mean something. That's why they do it. It's for a
Well,
reason.
it's
I don't
just
know
it's
if I would
right
have my
over the
son-
kid's
if I had
head,
a
so
son,
God
if I would
can't
have
see
him
the kid.
circumcised. I don't know.
God can't see the kid, so God can only see the chicken. So when the chicken dies, God's like, I guess that counts, right? That's the idea. It's that they can trick God, which is brilliant if you think about it. Because if you're saying you're made in the image of God, then you're saying God's a trickster, and God is clearly. I mean, self-evidently, God is a trickster. So the more trickstery you can be, the more trickery you propose, even against God, then the more godlike you are, right?
And it's because it's about how wily you are.
Mhm.
God favors the bold, including the wily, who are willing to push directions that others wouldn't.
And Zabbatai Zevi was reincarnated into Jacob Frank, right? So reincarnated Messianic Jewish. I just love how far this goes, really. in terms of
The
religion.
Jewish avatar.
Always
Air,
was,
water.
maybe.
Mike Frank says Jews are gullible when it comes to messiahs. Do you think so? I don't really think that. I mean, otherwise,
think
wouldn't
it's
they,
very
just,
seriously.
wouldn't they be just fine with like Jesus then? Like, I feel like you wouldn't even
Right,
want
and
another.
if you believe in Jesus, you're closed to the idea of new messiahs. And before it was just prophets. Every now and then you would add a chapter to this really old book, and then they didn't add a lot of chapters for a while, and they buried it and found it again later. And
whereas like Jesus makes it possible for everyone to be Messiah unless you're into like your Greek triangle worshiping Pythagorean cult Christianity. That was the point of my story, by the way, was I was sitting with all these Christians. I got them to like me because they're at like a Sunday brunch talking about how God helps them with miracles. I was like, yeah, because if you're open to miracles, maybe you'll be open to making graphene save the world. They're like, I get it. But then I said, I'm not a Trinitarian. And this dude almost shit a brick. He's just like, what? What? But how can you? But you can't. If you're not a Trinitarian, you're not a Christian. I was like, oh man, we came so close, bro. Like we were so.
And what he's implying by not a
almost there.
Christian means not a morally sound person, because you need.
But he thought I was. I
No,
was
it's
like, it was
Instead
like
of
a
relying
gotcha
on your
moment.
own moral compass, you need a book
I think what
and a
happened here.
community to tell you the difference between right and wrong.
I was like,
All right,
no,
but
you're-
specifically with Andres, I think he was just too much of an alchemist for this like trad Christian to be like, God damn it, I can't see eye to eye.
No,
with
but
this
yeah,
this
guy
kid's
at all."
but this
My
kid's
opposition
brilliant.
wasn't to
This
it on-
kid's
it was
brilliant. This
more
kid's
on
a
top of what
smart
he was
fit.
saying, yeah.
This kid knew solid state physics. He was into.
Yeah, but he's a muggle.
Maybe,
Yeah, he's a
but he was
muggle.
also pretty smart. But yeah, I guess you're right. I don't,
Smart muggle.
I don't
He's
want
not
to be
an- he-
disrespectful to him.
he's
as
not
a
an
muggle.
initiate.
'Cause he also was
But
making.
so funny.
He was
The
also
Overton
making,
window
like,
includes
laser.
atheism.
He did laser ablation to make sensors with a giant laser in graphene carbon. So
Okay.
things I used to do when I was like 19, but like he's doing it to make a company that's going to make money and everything like that. He's got a baby. He's like but he's a Lutheran, right? And so what happens is when you're young, they drill it into you like they drill mercury into your teeth, and you got to get that out. You got to get that. That's the problem.
Today, Neil deGrasse Tyson released a new 1-hour Star Talk, and he brought on a philosopher, someone from a philosophy background. And previously, I don't know if you've seen Kurt Jaimungal on YouTube,
Kurt.
intellectual, but he also challenged Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Tyson is convinced that there's no use to philosophy when it comes to modern science. And even though he acknowledges up until 100 years ago, all the greatest scientists were philosophers first, and then they would go and publish their works and talk about them outside of what experiments they did in private and recorded in private. What you tell the public, there's a certain philosophy behind, and so it's convenient for the government because you can convince people that are scientifically competent to do things for you and build weapons for you because they don't have the philosophy that tells them they shouldn't. And there's movies that we've talked about on here with Val Kilmer and the laser at MIT or something. And Andreas famously, I think, has said he didn't want to build the graphene batteries because DARPA was going to use them to build drones that would enact Skynet.
Which is literally what these kids were doing. It's funny because I was like,
right,
what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we're working with NATO. And I was like, oh, God. And one of the dudes said, yeah, like we came in and a general was here the other day and he was watching and we had a small explosion because there was, I probably even shouldn't tell you like what it was, but there was some kind of a material that inside the composite had a reaction and it was
C4. You accidentally made C4.
No, I don't want
instead of C8.
What is it called?
You're not far off, okay? And then, but it was an accident because they were trying to do a environmental waste reclaim, and so this idea was like to use flash to use high electricity that has there's a difference between the two materials' melting points, so it vaporizes at let's say 1400 C, and then the other material like Sumerian is like 1900 C. So that way, if you get it to like 1400 C, you vaporize and you can reclaim the cobalt or something. Anyway.
See, that kind of stuff is just as likely to cause a black hole that'll swallow Earth as CERN, as far as I can tell. Again, if we vibrate this material under these circumstances, again, who knows? Ice 9 from Kurt Vonnegut, where like one crystal, if you drop it into the ocean, the whole thing freezes instantly. Or,
the general saw this, and they were explaining to him like what was going on and why there was an explosion. He's like, "Oh, you're making really great explosives."
Sorry, General.
And they're like, what? No, we were just, that was an accident. It's like, yeah, but we literally do we add that particular composite of elements to our explosives on purpose to embellish and make our explosives better. So it's so over their head that they're thinking what they did was a mistake, but really it's something that these people would do on purpose for destroying each other. Yeah. So they don't know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, but they don't know what's going to be used for the military to kill each other. It's kind of
when they're creating and exploring things, they don't realize where they're going and what they're doing. They're just doing it. But what they're looking for, what they're looking for is things to support their hypothesis, and the hypothesis itself is a philosophical claim, like it has to be. So, but that's to say that scientists can't be philosophers or that it's irrelevant in our modern era is that like they're just going, we know the truth, we're just trying to prove it. And
the thing is, most of these wars aren't really fought over ideology. Ideology is a propaganda tool we use to supplement a war over resources. It's almost always about resources. So I was trying to explain to one of these kids who was really brilliant but was younger. I was saying, you need to figure out a way. Like the problem is war makes so much money. It's like, yeah, but war's so destructive. I'm like, yeah, but it's destructive in a very profitable way. Like you can have the Warsaw Pact and the NATO alliance having different caliber weapons, and that means that you have to make a $300 billion contract with Albania to get Chinese arms and ammunition so that it can finance Afghanistan, which used to be part of the Soviet alliance, to work with NATO. Like these things are money makers. Like the drones in Ukraine, everyone's like, oh man, they're killing all the people. It's like, yeah, and they're making a ton of money doing it. So what you need to do if you want to stop war is figure out a way to make money, not just for yourself, but for these warlords, make more money by not having a war than having a war. That's the only real way to stop a war is you have to figure out a better way to make money.
Crypto.
And
breathe it into existence. So eudaimonia, I think what you were saying is like the only people that would have the philosophy that you don't need philosophy with and or before science are people that don't have any philosophy, pretty much. And unfortunately, it's kind of this self-defeating loop. And that's why you end up with people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who he admitted at the beginning, this is the first time he started his podcast going, mea culpa. I looked at the comments and clearly I struck a nerve, and what I realized is it's his goal to be a science communicator and an educator, and he comes across like a know-it-all, and that's not science, you know.
Yeah. Well, the person in our modern era, it's
I hate people that come across as know-it-alls. By the way, sorry, I err on the side of confidence to make up for the actual.
Well, in the modern era, people who are scientists tend to have faith in science. They have faith in the structure of science. They have faith in the institutions, and the people who are actually in charge of these institutions are the real philosophers. They're the ones who are using philosophy to control other people. And part of that philosophy was you shouldn't take philosophy seriously. You should go and tell other people that science doesn't need philosophy in the modern era, because then people will stop thinking and they'll just have faith.
All I know is I don't know nothing.
So I'm holding a book now. I went to go. It's called The Bernoulli's Fallacy, and it's rooted in this very concept. So the Bernoulli effect, and Bernoulli himself was a great scientist, polymath, who made contributions in many fields. But the Bernoulli fallacy is that his name was used to sell vaccines to the public and so because whether or not he ever gave permission, but people were saying, oh, I hear Bernoulli's okay with it, or like Bernoulli got his, and whether again not that. So there's a fallacy that as soon as what you're going for, what the media and what people want and what they ask for from scientists is for them to paint a static, fixed picture. Yeah, and that's not science, though. Yeah, so
in the modern era, it's the Fauci fallacy.
Although he did not have the credibility of Bernoulli, though.
No.
He had the credibility of the white lab coat. Yeah.
He just demanded it. He was like, "Come on, give me authority. Give me authority. Trust me, I'm science."
He apparently he was in the movie The Dallas Buyers Club.
Fauci.
He was like he was the guy that was the evil character in that movie. Believe it or not,
dude.
Texas like the one that made them have to do all this running around, and the one who hid the anyways.
I'm in Austin right now. I was in Houston. I'm gonna go to Dallas, and I was but Austin's interesting because it's kind of a art house scene. It's liberal for Texas, but there's still it's not nearly as disgusting as California. And I watched, you've seen like Linklater films like Dazed and Confused and all that. I just recently rewatched Waking Life for the first time in a while. And it's interesting because it's all like you can see it like it's all in the Austin area.
Is Waking Life the one that's done like Scanner Darkly?
Yeah. Well, Scanner Darkly's done like Waking Life. Waking Life was 2001. It was first. It's interesting. It's 2001 also.
Great movies.
Yeah. See, your AI art, Andreas, reminded me of that kind of glitchy from frame to frame type approach. But
Slackers, good call. I was interested in how the art scene of Austin exists, and it's filled with philosophers and all sorts of different people.
Can the two other people on stream please join me in begging Andreas to like somewhere post some of those old AI videos that he made. There was like one with the Roman army transforming it. It's like they're earmarked in streams. He plays them online, and then even his biggest fans, you have to know where they are in order to go even share them with a friend. But I think we should eventually try to get Andreas a Super Bowl commercial, and every year, instead of like the Clydesdales are every year with Bud Light or with Budweiser, it's like there'll be a 2 or 3 year period where this brand uses the AI commercial, and the whole screen is melting. People are watching this on this huge 4K TV now, and so as long as it's not causing any medical problems, it's like the Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon was causing seizures because of flashing lights. But a lot of people, just because when I go on my Instagram reel, I'm seeing all types of AI animation, but the public still just sees it as closer and closer to hyper realism, as opposed to treating it like Van Gogh.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of going the approach of photorealistic reproduction, there's a certain amount of expression, and it really changes your frame of reference. And then it's like you don't even remember what the brand is at the end. The really crazy commercials. You're like, I'm always going to remember that commercial, but what was it selling? Who knows? But the idea is from year to year, eventually the news will be that the AI commercial this year is going to be for this brand. And you know, Ford had a 3-year, or some clothing company had, and again, it can be a 15-second thing. It can be because the whole screen turns into a melting fractal doing, and then again, there's something hypnotic about the frame by frame approach that was. If you even recall what I'm talking about, Andreas, do you even remember?
Pretty soon it's going to be all about uploading. So right now you can send a file wirelessly, right? You could send an MP3 or a movie to somebody, and you could send a game to somebody, right? You could send a video or a video game, and you could send, you know, pretty soon an AI to somebody, right? You could send an entire thinking system wirelessly. So pretty soon, the higher the resolution that gets, the easier it will be to send a person. A person could be sent wirelessly, and to be able to upload it into something, like we already have vulnerabilities in code and we have vulnerabilities in psyche. So if you were to want to mod an Xbox in the old days, you would take a Linux install file with overbuffer and you'd put that into a container that looked like a game save for James Bond video game. Like, so you open up GoldenEye or whatever and you load the game, and when it tries to load the game, it just tries to open the game save from the Linux install, and boom, you've just installed Linux as it's a way to trick the system. There'll be something like that with your psyche, where you'll be trying to remember something and they give you just enough information about a memory you have, like your Shakey's Pizza Rick and Morty moment, and then boom, they'll be able to install an AI system in your psyche. I think we're very close to that, and it could happen right through Super Bowl commercials.
I think the most novel use case for AI generated videos is 2D, like cartoons, because, you know, then it kind of phases out the issue of, is it realistic enough, or is this AI? Is this real or AI? It's like, well, it's clearly obviously like a fucking cartoon, an animation. It's the least problematic one that I could think of anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, and what was beautiful was watching the computer have a fit, an epileptic fit, because it was trying to blend between two frames. There was the one that, like, if an object went behind another, it might disappear or turn into 3. There wasn't object permanence. And then it took a step where it finally understood what it was looking at. But the step right before that, like, I think they kept, this was years ago at this point, where Andreas kind of would keep showing what it was possible. He was having Aiden in. And again, the goal kept being to make it better and closer and to fill the uncanny valley. Whereas Andreas was exploiting that edge right before
I want to build
it updated.
a whole community of houses in the uncanny valley, right? That'd be a development there.
And so it was glitchy. It was something that, again, some people, that's the only concern I would have, is that it might cause, if you played it for minutes and stared at it, some people might have some sort of latent neurological condition that emerges.
Snow crash.
They might just become very irritable or agitable, and didn't realize because they watched a commercial for a new brand of popcorn. But.
This AI video gave me severe agita.
I mean, that's no joke. Though, in the olden days, there was, rules about subliminal messaging in movie theaters. You couldn't flash popcorn or Coca-Cola because they found it was actually very effective. They did numbers, and when you had something that would just register for a quick second, enough people were like, oh yeah, I will go get a Coca-Cola, or during intermission or something, and that's a full-grown adults, let alone how the screen can be used. And the flicker rate of the projector was eventually perfected, not to make it the smoothest motion, but certain frame rates, and people will stare at it.
You know about this
but it's
one,
not
right?
good for you. It's not good.
The topless woman in the Disney's Rescuers. They put the Disney 1977 movie had a frame of, and I'm scared to even show it to you because it seems like you get in trouble for that. But I don't know. Yeah, basically, like, there's a little window that they pass by that has a naked woman in it. It's in the 1977 version. So it played in every theatrical release of The Rescuers, and then it was in the video cassette tapes I had as a kid. And I think in 1999, someone finally noticed it. And so they did a recall of the 1999 version of the tape. But a lot of time it lasts for, this is 20 years
of just uninhibited boobage.
Yeah, no one.
And you're able to kind of go back and find it. So you were just talking about how it'll be easier and easier to kind of load an AI entity and have it do your bidding. So, for instance,
into people. someday.
How could I go back and find the 30-second clips? Let's say I could think maybe 5 or 6 of them that you played a few years ago, other than going through it by hand and hoping that when I'm doing this, you think it's possible to build a bot that could just go and
soon
identify potential?
something. It has to do the same thing that you would do, which is like you try to remember around what.
Well, that's just building a macro, then.
Yeah, it has to see all the data and then be able to think about it and do a recall.
And I remember you said they were low resolution and you didn't get them fully uploaded, and you might not have even saved them because, again, it was kind of like you were just working with the most recent version. Is it possible to go back and kind of get, I know it's not the Wayback Machine, but get the version of the software you were using back then?
Legacy mode activated.
Legacy mode.
Totally do that.
There's a word for that.
People do try to keep legacy software online. There's even virtualized.
And this all became up because of Scanner Darkly.
OS
We were talking
8.
about the movie that was glitching, and I was saying, yeah, that's Andreas had that style down pat, and I want to see more of it. But anyways, sorry for the huge diversion. And I want to see it in Andreas's resume.com. My friend Russell's resume.com. You want to get everyone go look at it. But he was the guy that worked with the founders of Vine to do HQ, and he's working with the founder of Napster right now.
If you ever go to infinitemac.org, have you seen infinitemac.org? You can actually run different versions of Mac OS from different decades right in your browser. They're like virtualized versions of it. And you can, like say you want the 1988 6.0 version of Mac, and you can actually
that's cool.
Yeah.
So if anyone has a pitch meeting or an elevator speech and wants to pitch it to a tech pro.
I was watching an old fucking Tom Clancy movie with the Harrison Ford one. I think it was Clear and Present Danger. And they were trying to hack into an encrypted disk. Like it was literally just a floppy disk. And their method of hacking supposedly was to get all the files on this guy's, all the birthdays, count numbers, wives' birthdays, daughters' birthdays. And they were just like guessing. I was like, really? You guys, this is really what you guys are going to go with?
This is interesting.
It was something like this.
I like it. Let's go back. Let's go to 1997. Takes a second to run. Boom.
Nice.
This brings me back. Control panels, extensions.
Has anyone heard of the Boogosphere that they found?
Remind me. I feel like I've heard that. What's the Boogosphere?
It's spelled B-U-G-A, and it's not the sphere of Booga Booga.
B-U-G-A. Boogosphere. Tell us about it. What is the Boogosphere?
So usually stuff like this is presented and it's a headline and it gets added to the list of OOP-arts or things that we can't explain. And there's enough high resolution footage. And again, now it's just AI be real. And it's like Yonaguni, the giant formation off of Japan. And any documentary, anything that's been made on it since 1985 is just recycling.
1985.
If someone hasn't heard of it before, it's really interesting still. But when someone like Jimmy Corsetti comes along and does a feature on it, because he wants to bring it to his audience, I guess so when it comes to this sphere, what it says is that it's perpetually cold. So it's a sphere that weighed 2 kilograms when they found it, and now it weighs 10. And that it's just cold and like really cold. And so, okay, and usually people, you get a bunch of facts, you don't really know what it means, or it's like, oh, well, that's pretty far out. I wonder if it's true or not. And this is left over from the pandemic where we come together and we share information. And it's like, do you concur? Like, this is what as opposed to just like sharing something and then reflecting on it. And again, I'm just trying to help everyone back to this. So where I come from, you could have a ball of metal that is perpetually warm. And it's like, if nuclear rich, if you have a uranium rich alloy and you have a ball of it, that will boil water for thousands of years, potentially. It's not that it has a certain amount of thermal mass. And then as soon as the water absorbs the thermal mass, it's cool. It will continue to warm itself. Whereas, as far as I know, there's no such thing as something that is perpetually cold and absorbing energy. And so the implications is that if this is something that is perpetually cold, we have to reevaluate the fundamental laws of physics as most people understand or know them, or maybe it's just an additional phenomenon. But the next thing, the fun thought experiment is, what would you do with it if it was real? So everyone's come up, there's lots of ideas. You can make a nuclear rocket where you don't need an ignition source. You just, there's not a lot of moving parts. There's all types of things. You can make nuclear batteries. All the lighthouses in Alaska and on the moon, so to speak, have nuclear batteries. But so, my understanding is that in space things get really hot, and they have no way to shed thermal mass because what they're getting bombarded by radiation, and so they heat up. And granted, it's slow because especially when you're not in direct sunlight, if you're shaded by the planet or the moon, but because there's no air around you, the air actually, it's technically in the stratosphere like 1,500 degrees. It's just that we perceive it as cold. So you have a satellite up there that's getting bombarded by radiation, and it's really like the dog that we sent up there, and maybe the chimp. Eventually, they just cook, because it roasts. So there's no way but so if you had something that was perpetually cold, you could load it into your, especially if there were people involved and things that you need to maintain life support systems, because you can only expend so much energy to cool things, because now you're consuming space that you could have oxygen or food stored. Whereas if you had a solid state object that was perpetually cold, it would be useful for certain space and stratosphere type applications. But anyone else have any other ideas?
No, this is hyper useful actually. For some, I should send this.
And it probably doesn't exist, but that
Rice Lab actually.
It's at least trying to advance the conversation beyond the headline, which somehow doesn't. It's like what the media does now is they put it on the tee for us, and we're not just supposed to go like, "Oh, whoa, look, I'm gonna stand at the plate. Look, yep, balls on the tee, guys." I don't know. Or Andreas and Krigler, like again, they're hosts. The panelists need to.
Lithium triethyl borohydride, right? You need to have something that can work as a supercapacitor at a close to zero temperature. So superhydride, like light BH, would probably be.
It could maintain the temperature of a superconductor without needing a cooling system, huh? Okay.
They don't even have superhydride as a wiki article yet. That's how important that word is I just gave you. Superhydride.
Or how suppressed.
Yeah. I think the future is probably also like a space tether for the atmosphere into the firmament, right? Like that doesn't explode when lightning hits it, but lightning destroys everything because it vaporizes all materials. Carbon, like if you were to put a diamond, it's a strong material, but if you were to make it 6,000 to 9,000 degrees, it's going to vaporize instantly. So trying to come up with materials that can handle extreme charge is another issue. So a boogosphere would have to be able to handle that either by sacrificial material or diversion of the energy flow. These are all hard questions to answer.
I am thankful for the boogosphere if it exists. If it doesn't, well, it would have been nice.
Then I'm excited.
It's one of these things that, again, if you have eyes to see,
I'm grateful it doesn't exist as well.
I mean, they say it's engraved with Proto-Sanskrit, and so that's the only thing that gives it any credibility. That it might be thousands of years old. But other than that, the idea that it went from 2 kilograms to 10 kilograms, that it's perpetually cold. Because when I first read that, it looks like a typo. There's no such thing. They found an object and it's cold, because then either it warms up or what do you mean it is cold? But it's possible.
It's got a booga. If it stops boogaing, then it's no longer a boogosphere. It's just a sphere.
The bogosphere.
But on one hand, okay, we have to rewrite the laws of physics as we know it. If there's something, okay, that's fine. And so it shatters some people's world. But unless there's an application that affects the everyday person, like even if it is true, who fucking cares? So my response about most things is 2 words. Who? And that's the proper response if someone asks you, do you know who the president is? Because I think you're disoriented. Is who? Oh, you mean right now? And then you tell them who you think the president is. But That's
So
how they
this-
kept peace in Boston during
Like,
the
is
Civil
this
War.
video like, is any of this video real, or is it all AI generated? Like, is this all AI generated right here, or is this really happening? I feel like this is AI generated, right? Or is it real? Like, is there any footage of them actually interacting with this bogus
I
sphere?
don't think so.
But remember, Andreas, even if it is AI generated, a human
guy
still
looks
had
like
to
it's the
tell the
same guy.
computer to do it. You know,
I mean,
Look at those booga scanners.
yeah. Maybe let's see. Those numbers look real enough, right? Maybe this is a real footage, isn't it? Isn't that
No.
scene?
no.
This part's not real at all either.
There's 3 grainy.
I
images,
used the
and
same
there always
booga
will be.
scanner back in.
You know, like, yeah. I don't know. It's a good story though. I like where you're going with this.
We're probably gonna build a space elevator at some point.
Who's throwing coins right now? Like, what's
Oh,
even
sorry.
happening?
I'm picking up hardware. I'm putting together a bed frame right now. I can mute myself though. Yeah. But anyone else? So what would you do if you had a cold sphere? I guess you could sell it.
I would hide it.
How cold?
I would hide it and
who would
create
you sell
some.
it to though?
I would put it at the end of a staff. And then I
Oh,
would
now
shoot
we're talking.
ice bolts
Okay.
with it.
I would hide it as the real life One Piece.
Please tell me you guys know about
Greatest
Stick
treasure in the
Nation.
world.
You guys know about Stick Nation, right? It's in their Stick Nation appraisal that this guy from Jamaica does, where he rates people's sticks, but people find sticks all over with root balls attached to them that have weathered and stuff. And you know, guys,
That's what I thought it
it's
would
like
be.
something that the joke is like girlfriends tell their autistic boyfriends to post their stick because it's like the 3rd one they found this week and they really like it, so post it
It's a
again.
good one. This is a really good one, babe.
But
I
then there's
swear.
another guy who goes on and he goes, "Oh my gosh, look at that! That's a level 3 warrior staff. It's got 2." I can't speak the lingo because I don't actually play Dungeons and Dragons, but it's like, you know, that one gives you 2 extra bonus points for health, and he'll rattle off like 10 attributes of the staff. You know,
So, like, hyper advanced civilization men from the future in the year 2025 are playing fetch with sticks.
The staff of Moses, right?
well,
Which
so
is
the
a
same
serpent,
guy,
though, right? It's a
Mr.
seraph. The staff
Mr.
of Moses is a seraph, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little different.
MYSTACRO.
I mean, finding the stick is
Well,
step
you know,
one.
but it's not a seraph. It's a seraph channeling tool.
Not for Andreas to type in, but
Here we go. Right here. This is.
Yeah.
There we go. Like, right. It's more than this. It's
Yeah, but
it's-
that's not only his staff. That was an
Snake.
idol he created.
But I mean, what is the staff of the Egyptians? I mean,
This is for a different ritual. The staff that he used in Egypt was different.
really. You don't think he was using a seraph staff?
I mean, no, I think it's very connected, but there's something else with the snake there. This was because people were getting bitten by snakes, so he made a golden snake, and like anyone who looked at it got cured from it.
Jafar uses a seraph, right?
this came up on stream before
Wow.
with
But
Rafa.
that's the basis of the seraph. It's that moment where he heals people using the golden snake.
Moses.
So
is using the
eudaimonia,
golden
do,
snake.
do you remember when that came up on an episode of I guess if it's Rafa's show at Europa?
Europa.
No, sorry, I'm not.
This was the one time that they tried to have me on,
Europa.
and so this very thing came
We
up
tried.
too. And again, right? So we hear it, right? Again, so how do we advance? That's on the T right now. So there's something that you look at and it heals you, correct? That's the premise of the story. Work with me, gentlemen. Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. So if being snake bitten could be, you know, again, a mistranslation. There's a hieroglyph that means you're like maybe intoxicated, because even some venoms make you slightly intoxicated. And a yantra is something in, I guess, Indian culture, or maybe it's part of Ayurveda. I'm not sure about that, but it's kind of a fractal mathematical pattern that you look at and trace your eyes over, and it's supposed to make you feel calm and collected and centered and grounded and present, as opposed to, and so I don't know, when I brought that up the other time, he was trying to say, no, that's not what it is. But the idea that there's a staff with a snake head on it and you looked at it and either it turned you to stone or it made you better. Yeah, the placebo effect works. And if you want to believe something, but I was just trying to come up with another plausible situation in which, again, things get translated over language barriers and generations where you got to see the structure of what's being communicated. And so if you're snake bitten, sometimes if you stare at that thing, it'll help it go away a little bit, because like you get through your trip without freaking out because you stare at a yantra for like 4.5 hours,
There is also that people have like within the venom is the cure for the venom, right? And it could be that there's something like, to me, this people seem averted to the notion that God has a connection to snakes or to the lizards, but he used the garden and the snake in the garden, and
not heal that snake was not a healing snake though.
Yeah,
but
of course,
he might have been actually,
or maybe it depends on your
honestly,
perspective.
if you read it in Genesis, what it says is that the serpent, who's the most cunning beast, explains the truth, which is that eating this fruit will make you more like God. So then they eat the fruit, and then God says, wow, now they've become like us, so we have to stop them from being
outside
immortal.
of eating things. Like, what else can we look at? What else do you guys see that changes the way you feel if you're snake bitten? And for me, it's watching Andreas, guys. That's what it is.
The snake bitten thing. I think it's a symbol for the harshness of reality when it comes and finds you. And the snake in the garden is the peaceful place, and the snake is the catalyst of reality that comes in and goes like, hey, you better get moving or else things are going to come and eat you, basically.
We got a West Virginian here. He says, I trip balls when snake bitten. How often does this happen, Aaron?
10, but I think I made him blush. I can't tell.
I get it. I get the West Virginia. It's true. You're a sweet man. Memory, you're in Texas, aren't you? You should send me. I'm here for a minute. Isn't that crazy? I should come see you. Nehushtan. What is this about? You brought it up.
This is the staff, the serpent on the staff. If you scroll down, that has the same image. This is what it is. It's the moment
you're in Texas,
where that emerged, where he took down. He had a snake.
That's
and
right.
people at it.
The Nehushtan. All right.
So my friend that I brought up a couple of times that worked for those tech companies is also in Texas. I think just outside of Austin. So I don't know, but maybe I'll. If you're there for a minute. He's married. He has 2 kids now, I think. But.
I'm probably going to be only a few more days. I'm kind of sick of it.
If I were to hire 2 people, if I had $100,000 to ask 2 people on the face of this earth to work on a creative project with, I don't know, 6 months somehow committing effort to either releasing a series, it would be you, Andreas, and then the other person that you're very geographically close to right now. With the computer, we're all very close.
Let's set up for a conversation, man. It sounds cool if you think it's that great. But yeah, the seraphim, the Nehushtan, the Michelangelo's image of the Israelites. To me, it seems interesting that Moses had a staff that was probably common for the Egyptians, right? Because he comes in with his staff. He does, I think, what they do normally. That's the point, is he can outdo their rituals. Mm-hmm. The Egyptians can turn staffs into serpents. That's the other thing, is his staff turns into a serpent. So I don't know. You don't think that's the same staff? The staff that turns into the serpent isn't the same as the Nehushtan?
It could be, of course, but the symbols cross over. I think the point is that God can wield the dragon power. The dragon
staff turning into serpent is the code for whiskey dick, right?
I don't know. If you play music, that it like rises.
The comedic save.
The tantric practice of
if you blow on the flute,
ejaculating when you're flaccid, though, now that takes brain power, dude.
So the staff of Moses, or the walking stick of Moses, a rod in the King James Bible, used to produce water from the rock, parting.
It's one thing if you can come on command, or you can give her a countdown. But if you, sorry.
So let's ask AI. What do you think? We'll just chat GPT it.
What do you think about Moses's rod?
Is the staff of Moses the Nehushtan?
Him or her? Sorry, or anything outside or in between. Sorry, I don't mean to do that. Like I said, I don't want to be sexist.
Seraphim, serpent, stick. Blah, blah, blah,
it's a naga.
While this goes, I just want to say I've been interested lately in the idea of imbuing objects with your own psychic energy. I think there was something about like the Monroe Institute spooks from the CIA kind of messing around with that. They're like, yeah, you get your energy wand, and it's just like this crystal bar or something. I don't know. It's cool stuff.
Hitachi used to be known for making stereos.
It's not the same physical object. Okay.
Psychometry is the superpower of being able to read the memories and data imbued within an object by who wielded it. So if you play Beethoven's piano, you can learn how to play piano like Beethoven.
Oh,
That was in an episode of Rick and Morty, but it came with a
No,
curse.
that's in a lot of stuff.
You'd get a boxer's gloves and you'd have the skill of the world champion, but then like again there was a
Yeah.
So then Rick built a machine that uncursed it so that they could just
or that
sell
movie, or that movie Like Mike, where little Bow Wow got Michael Jordan's old sneakers and could play basketball really well. That was a good one.
I mean, it's interesting that they're not the same object, but if the staff transmutes into a serpent, could it be that the serpent staff is wrapped around the bronze stick? Maybe they come together into something. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, I think it's a form of technology. I think that staff was probably more than just a stick, or it was a medium through which he could use some form of channel, like a channel to higher technology.
God, I love the 3 Caballeros.
When we think about life forming out of a primordial ooze via simple chance and randomness, also when it comes to discovering electricity, if you're carving on a lathe a piece of nickel and a piece of copper and you're creating these fine windings that come off and then they interlace, you can create batteries by accident in your tailings pile, essentially, from your decorative work with these metals. So there's a chance that is how they were discovered, is that some of the more basic properties, and again, they're probably rediscovered throughout time by different versions of our species as well. But
What's up with psychometry or psychoscopy? What are you bringing up about this?
Oh, I think the one depiction I've seen was in that movie Push. This Asian lady picks up like a lady's hairbrush and she could sniff it out or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, she was with a man." And
Sniffers,
your wife
right?
your wife is cheating on you.
Oh yeah, dude, that movie is great. Actually, I really like
Hell
that
yeah.
one.
Hell yeah, it's so underrated.
It's like the best movie Dakota Fanning ever made, probably. I don't know.
Probably.
It's a great movie shot in like China or something, right? Like
Yeah.
I remember thinking this movie was the best MK Ultra spy kid movie of 2009, which I think they were
Definitely up
saying.
there.
but did they have a super sense of smell? Is that what it was?
So you had
Yeah,
different people evolving into super soldiers, and the government
Yeah.
was like mutating them to make them super soldiers, and then a bunch of them escaped and laid low in developing countries like in
Stay behind networks sort of thing.
China or Russia, or
So
like
there
anywhere
was-
they get off grids. They weren't
And
going
they had
was
Nazi
people-
ties too. Like it
there
was
was
all
people
offshoots of
Yeah,
For sure. And there's people who could see, like they were visionaries or prophets or whatever you want to call them, and seers.
clairvoyant.
Yeah, so they could see. They could
The
see,
witches
and then
burn them.
they would have to draw in order to manifest whatever they saw. And then you had sniffers, who are people who could read the data inside of any object. So the history, who touched it, where it's been. And they
bleeders
could
had
track
built-in
people.
sonic weapons. Bleeders, pushers, sniffers, whisperers.
Sonic
Is this
weapons.
connected to the Seinfeld bathroom book episode where they could tell if the
Pushers.
book had been in the bathroom?
Seinfeld is MK Ultra for sure, so probably.
That's
I
true.
didn't watch it. Lost. I can't name a mainstream show that I have watched that's more than, like, again, when there's these 7-season things and everyone's waiting for it to come out.
Sopranos.
Nope.
I'm watching Blacklist. Shout out to Blacklist.
Silicon Valley Arrested Development, but I'm not watching it when it comes out, I guess. I guess
Silicon
it was
Valley only got
Valley.
like 5 seasons because it was 2.
Arrested Development feels like it's an MK Ultra designed to like stop you from going forward.
And it's like I'm acting like I have discerning taste, and yet I've watched probably 1,000 hours of the Desertosphere, you know. But again, there's a certain type of programming that's supposed to engage maybe passive listening, or at least passive watching, and then maybe passive listening, so that you can get up and kind of do your dishes or put together a bed while you're listening, and maybe even participating. That's the fucked up part, you know, because of the technology now. And if I wasn't invited online, sometimes I just talk at my phone anyways while I'm doing shit. But, you know. At least I have the excuse that I'm practicing for coming online. Because again, imagine Andreas had never brought me on, and I was still stuck in this like parasocial relationship where I'm like super chatting at him. And
Is there a Exertus meetup in Austin? Yeah, if you're in Austin, like you just come to the F chat and link up with me. Just say you're in Austin and we can find a place. Maybe we'll go to like the world famous chili parlor or something by the Capitol.
It's time to meet up in Montreal.
Dude, the Montreal meetup is actually, it just rolls off the tongue. But since I'm in Texas, anybody here, yeah, let me know. I'm happy to meet up with you guys. Actually, if you're in Austin, come tonight to the Dreadneck Reggae show on 6th Street, right? The Citadel or something it's called.
It's a good idea, yeah. Blast it.
Careful at the Citadel.
Yeah, what the heck is that place? I think it's a Citadel. I don't know. That would be kind of a biblical metaphor that's worth considering. Let's see.
All
The
places
Flamingo
called Citadel
at the Flamingo Cantina. That's way more my speed, actually. Here, I don't know if you can even see that. There you go. There's
So what
a
you're
Flamingo.
saying is that people should get on a flight, even though the flight air traffic controllers haven't been paid for a minute. Huh?
Actually, didn't they just come up with like a agreement? Well, like, the other day I dropped Ian off at the airport, and there was police working to do their jobs for them. But I don't know. Like I'm not saying that you should.
I need
take
an
all
excuse
air
to cancel
traffic
flights because that's how they stop people trying to
Yeah.
cross state lines for abortions. And the airlines don't want to be complicit.
that's what's
so they'll
going on.
cancel a whole flight.
I just want to make it
Yeah.
clear that I am not endorsing taking all air traffic controllers in TSA and marching them into the street and shooting them on public execution television. I am not advocating for that publicly. Anyway.
Yeah, because you really do rely on
Wouldn't
that, shit,
accomplish
that whole infrastructure of flying and air travel. You really
I use it too much.
utilize that. Yeah.
Yeah, which is
You
one of
must
the
have-
reasons why I never
So
do
you'll be
the
able to
X-ray. I've
fly
never done the X-ray because I fly so often. They always say like, "Oh man, like it's only as much as the radiation you'll get from flying." And I'm like, "Well, that's great. Like, I don't want to be flying then if I'm going to get like all day, all the time, and just like radiating yourself. If you fly a lot, it's kind of a bummer." But I don't know. I wish I need some sort of It's a Wonderful Life movie about air traffic controllers in TSA that make you really think that they matter. You know, no offense
well, like
to
the Terminal, Tom Hanks.
that movie's not making me want TSAs.
I was
Do you know what I mean? What's the
like, yeah,
movie? What's the movie that makes you want TSA? There's even like a movie with
all you need is a rom-com, and then it'll slowly get like accepted. Like, you know, it's Terminal to My Heart or whatever. And
I think
it's
She's
about a
Way
woman.
Out of Your League is about a TSA operator.
There's this movie called Carry On.
Carry
with
On.
the
Oh, I
dude,
saw that shit.
Yeah, and it just was like, God, like how much would it? I'm sorry, I don't want to be rude because everyone has to make a living. Everyone has to bust their nut, you know. But just
So
I can't imagine. Like
even
I
before
honestly,
the new imaging machines, the airports were used. Sorry, I'm just. Please finish your thought.
No. My thought's
Shame on
going to
me.
be a open-ended
Shame on
question
me.
about name positive thought. Name something worse than being a TSA, so that you make TSAs feel good. Like, hey, TSAs, your life's not so bad.
At least you're not an ICE agent.
At least you're
No,
not.
they save lives every day because again, they're women that don't even know they're pregnant or have like a stone baby inside of them. And the new imaging software that they use helps them find all of that stuff.
I mean,
And
you
apparently,
always-
this has been going on for a long time at the airports, where there's a whole human trafficking,
all kinds of trafficking. That's the thing. There's like
sex,
constantly
abortion,
everyone goes to these festivals and these
prostitution
these,
thing. I mean,
these
the airport
conventions and
to say that.
everything. There's
Can you believe,
drugs,
guys? There's
sex,
human
alcohol,
trafficking at the
guns,
airport.
weapons,
you know?
human trafficking signs everywhere.
Yo,
That's
Andreas,
what
did you
the
see
airport is meant to do, is to traffic humans, is it not?
Did you see
That's
Soul Plane?
There's souls on this mother effing plane. No,
That's what the bunkers underneath the airports are filled with, accidentally.
Soul
right?
Plane.
It's like
Soul Plane was a very interesting movie.
Why didn't I watch
Very
this? I'll give it a shot. I believe.
I don't think
you.
they could ever get away with releasing a movie like this in the modern day. And this
What's
wasn't
it-
even that long ago.
What's the synopsis? We've got Tom Arnold's in this movie. That's a shocker.
Yeah, you know, it's just an airline that's very urban.
That sounds good. That sounds kind of good.
Check it out.
Yeah,
Tell me
I
what you
mean,
think after you see it.
I will. Or is it basically about how TSAs are terrible though, and they don't care about you? Or
Nah, I think it's a little more racially charged, comedic effect.
You know,
Terrorist, I thank you for being, before the stream closed out, thank you for being the only person who's ever even halfway acknowledged that maybe Stefan's idea about C-sections isn't like all that bad in certain situations, guys. But like,
Yeah, I'm a pretty open-minded
Anyways.
guy. You could say I'm so open-minded that shit just
Probably.
goes right in, falls
Your
right
mind's
out.
probably open because it wasn't closed in around by a vulva.
Because through C-sections. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he
it
subverted?
means you're not neurotypical.
C-sec-
Neurotypical is the new nice way of saying mentally challenged, and then
C-section, what I did there.
people who used to be called autistic now are called neurodivergent, but that just means they're not quote
It
unquote.
just means their
neurotypical,
brains
if you
were
get my drift,
squished by tight vaginas that could
Yeah.
have been.
But brains heal over time. People who have very awkward childhoods, they get told to stand still and listen a lot. And then by the time they're like 30, 40, 50, they,
Look,
they haven't made any
Not-
enemies and they're still around.
It's not for nothing. All those Egyptian like hieroglyphs, the one depicting people, they all had like long heads. Okay, because like people who have compressed heads from vaginas are aliens or something.
We got one more Messiah to talk about. This is Avraham Haim Zagdoon. He's a 21st century Messiah, the spiritual heir of Nachman of Breslov, born in Tunisia, immigrated.
Ooh,
to
so there we go.
France.
We got to start a dating app. Yeah, Rabbi Nachman. That my grandfather, his was named after.
Really?
His
Yeah,
name
Nachman's
is
cool.
Robert Nachman Blumberg, which and that guy was Rabbi Nachman Blumberg. So
That's pretty based, actually.
either
Good for
it's
you.
a way of saying Jesus effing, and like it was like meant to be a joke on him, or. But the so on a dating service, okay, do you want to have kids, not have kids, or like let's say a matchmaking service, that sort of thing, and then it's outside of have you had abortions or not being a legitimate question. A man wants to
like
ask
plenty
on
of
like a
fish in
column,
the
so they're
sea.
only meeting people who either have or have. But if we're gonna have kids, do you agree that having a pre-planned C-section is obviously, if it's available?
Yeah, you need
be
an
the best
app
way?
just like plenty of fish in the C-section would be the app. It's just only. for
Oh,
people
I
that want-
like it. There
It's
you
just
just
for-
named it too. Even as a joke, it's a way to raise awareness about it, kind of.
Yo, do you know what'd be nuts?
Because right now it's a
ima-
question I have to ask women when I meet
Wait,
them
there was a-
eventually, and
there
it's
was
just
a
really
decent-
awkward, But
Just get the
otherwise, it's not
t-shirt.
worth going any further. Go ahead.
Get the like C-section T-shirt. Terrorist. What would be nuts though? What was your?
Could you imagine if there was like a resurgence, like a cyclical resurgence of just like local matchmakers or like local dating events, speed dating
There
events?
totally are, bro. Like, so that's the other thing I noticed is these scientists, they're all too busy to date and they don't have those apps. And then what happens is they go on Sunday to this religious like community house, and then somebody who's a little older who knows everyone's daughter like matches the scientists up with the most eligible daughters in Texas, and vice versa.
But they can sort men by height. If you smoke or you don't smoke, you're not even allowed on certain apps by your religion. But men, other than their looks and what they look like with their clothes on, what are you allowed to know about them? Or maybe even again without their clothes on.
What their degree is in, what their projects are, and then how much money they're likely to
And how
make
good in
off
bed
their-
they are if they make videos showing that off, or how they like to be touched. Sorry.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think more they're
That's
worried
kind of
about like
dating service.
the eligibility is a socioeconomic thing these days because it's so easy to be bankrupt and money is so important. You have to make more and more money to matter, to be eligible in this world. It's cool. Like this kid, everyone's talking about the H-1B visas and all that, and how poor people are trying to, they're like, wow, Indians are poor and they study more because it matters more. And they think all Americans are just spoiled rich kids. Like several of these scientists are from like Appalachia, or they're Chinese first generation where their parents escaped China in the 80s or something.
Plenty of fish in the C-section, huh?
Yeah, bro. He's like, that one works, bro. That could do more. I don't know. Well, okay. Any last thoughts? Let's do Vincent. You want to say something?
Don't be an antichrist. Be an anti-antichrist. There you
Ooh. All right. So be a
Good luck.
Christ. Be
Pretty
so
much.
ye
Be
so
an
ye
ally
better
to Christ.
you better-
Be the staff that Moses needs you to be.
ye better be Christs.
I mean, there's definitely different frameworks in which something like that could play out. You get an actual guy who's an actual Messiah, whatever, second coming type stuff, or you could get
Or a guy who's an actual rod for Jesus.
But when you
Or
say
you could do
actually, again, it means that instantly there's heaven on earth as soon as the Messiah is born. That's what it means.
Romans
he doesn't even have to
8:17.
do anything, but by him being born, it signals that
And if we are
yeah.
and if we are children, we are heirs, heirs of God, and co-heirs with Christ. If indeed we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. This was in my head a lot because some minister at their church was saying, God's not going to share his glory. And I was like, bro, you're literally, it's the Bible. It's freaking.
That was a good impersonation.
It's like the entire basis of the Bible.
It's like, you know what it is? So many Christians are PC Principal in South Park this week beating up Christ because they don't like him. Like if most of these American Christians or worldwide met Jesus, they would hate Jesus because he believes in the exact opposite thing that they believe in. Sorry to offend everyone.
It's true. I mean, it's true.
Sorry, you brought me on. I guess I'm supposed to be the one that offends everyone, and then when you do it,
I just use you so that they're distracted when I'm being offensive. I think that's the
reference point.
I'm just exploiting your dreadlocks.
So, yeah, I'm offensive, but next to this guy, come on.
Realistically, yeah. I mean, they're gonna burn me at the stake before they burn you at the stake. But there's,
what
everyone needs an Azazel, okay?
If I really care about it, though, you can't bring anger to it. You can't bring frustration to it. And if I really think it's an important message, granted, I don't have a personal loss surrounding this. There's, again, 200,000 women die every year during childbirth. So those voices seem to be unheard. This idea of people advocating for
USB C-section.
So if I were going to talk about anything to close it out, is that decarboxylation is real, my friends. And because of the way I studied chemistry and retained the knowledge, I understand that you have to heat up the herb that you get from the THCA form in a jar, and maybe with a glass hockey puck or two, like a little fermentation went. But it's at 110 degrees and 120 degrees. You have to keep it below 120 Fahrenheit. You really want to get it above 110. You can do it at 95 degrees, and it might take 3 weeks at that temperature, but it's still going to be a lot more powerful than. And so the industry is not caught up to this. And this is an industry that is $1 trillion industry per year. There are entire countries that are going to come online that not only recognize it as a beneficial medicine, but they're going to be including it like a cigarette in their mess kit on their Navy. And they're going to be people buying millions of pounds. And it's not about what strain it is and what lights you grow it under. You have to, if you're going to smoke it, you have to decarboxylate it. And the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission fired their director 1.5 years ago. She sued her way back into her job with back pay. And in an interview yesterday, the first one she's done, she doesn't smoke. Almost, no, that's a disgusting habit. It's like the head of the cannabis. But yeah, and so it's something that I've smoked weed for 40 years and struggled with dispensary weed, not understanding what was missing. But when I bring my weed around now and I smoke it with people and we're listening to music, they go, oh yeah, this is what it used to be like. I'm going, see, I told you. Because you guys all kind of, whether or not you watched the episodes I was on, Andreas at least was there for them, where I was bringing information to the table. I thought the plant was missing an enzyme. And at first I was actually boiling it at 200 degrees and it was kind of roasting the plant, but at least I was getting some of the medical benefit. And understanding, I was pushing it beyond the reaction curve. Most people in this situation, when they want to speed up a process that's supposed to take about 36 hours, that's what I've got just through experimental means. I have no way of narrowing it down what percentage I'm decarbing it. But if you do it at 123 degrees, you're fine. If you're at 128, all of a sudden the plant itself just begins to turn a little more yellow and it tastes a little more chlorophyll and it's like the slightly vaporized. But if you just keep it above
decarboxylation is really useful for more than just cannabis, right? Like decarboxylation is really important to graphene oxide. If you like decarboxylate the graphene groups for carbon wall nanotubes or graphene substrates, you can actually help mobility and electron flow, right? So self-assembled layers that have photoresistance, because the decarboxylation is also a natural process of photosynthesis.
So they say it's a natural process or it happens spontaneously, but spontaneous reactions might mean it happens over the course of 10,000 years. But if you add a catalyst, now it happens in 5 seconds. Yeah. But in this situation, how do you decarboxylate the flower without adding anything to it? Because when you say you're enhancing the flower, people think you're spraying it with something because they then smoke the weed and they're as high as they've, especially if they've only grown up smoking dispensary weed. You know, if you roll a big enough spliff and you hold it the right way, it does decarb a little bit. But I'm saying if the idea of a one-hitter quitter where all the way down to the stinger, the roach, if you were passing that around a circle and someone hadn't smoked yet and they took 2 hits off your roach, they're fucking, it's like they hit a dab. You know, it's
if you use like a silver acetate and you decarboxylate carbon at like 200 to 300 C, you can actually turn the carboxylated carboxylates, you know, the carbon scored into metals too. So you can make self-assembled nanoparticles or metal organic frameworks that will be useful for like replacing batteries and everything else like that. So it's kind of interesting because it's a technology that is so it's a natural phenomena that we can do better because we now if we understand
but what is better in this context of
you do it quicker and in a way that advantages you quicker.
And you can, if you all you're looking for is the decarb amount, and you're trying to maximize that, right? You're going to crank up the temperature, and you're going to try to shorten the time. But the way, you know what a clock reaction? There's a demonstration in chemistry class where they put 10 beakers in a circle, and they all have clear liquid in them, and they've got 10 students, and they all drop in their beakers at once. And the ratios are such that after 2 seconds, that one turns black. And then after 4 seconds, that one turns black. And then after 6 seconds, 8 seconds. And if you cool down the whole room, there's a 3-second gap between them. And if you cool it down enough, though, it's not linear. Eventually, it gets halfway through. And then after like 6 days, this one turns. And then after 6 weeks, this one turns. And then after 6 months.
You can have a time controlled like nano particulate synthesis.
Yeah, but people getting the youngins to follow the instructions, or even it has to be. And now it's easy. I have a sous vide, a digital sous vide. Think about how hard it would have been 50 years ago to create a water bath at exactly between 110 and 115 for 36 hours without it being a fire risk or a hazard. Or
you know who could have done it?
It's just so easy right now.
Anyone doing CVD, chemical vapor deposition, like Kodak to make films. Anyone making like crystalline particulates on films. And we had 7 layers. They would do that in 7-layer perforation back then. Even like more than 50 years ago. We're talking like 90 years ago that they were able to start doing that.
And I guess we'll chalk it up to a Stefan problem. If you'll type that one thing into Google, it's called the Stefan problem. And then there's also the Stefan equation. But it's this guy, I think it's George Stefan. But there's a Stefan problem.
Stefan problem is real, bro. This is your next pop song.
No,
are you kidding me?
Well, I can't tell if this was retconned in my name, in my honor or something, but
yes,
it does have to do with temperature dispersion through a medium.
Wow.
Which is awfully ironic. But
Josef Stefan, the
Josef,
Slovenian physicist, introduced the problem in 1890 series of papers. I'm going to study the Stefan problem.
This dude was no joke. Click on his name. Look at all the things that were named after that guy. If you just, I mean, you kind of clicked into the subsection, but yeah,
bro, what a beast!
List of accolades. I mean,
a Corinthian Slovene, bro. He's gonna now. You should have said this. We're putting this on in Europa. We're gonna have a whole thing with Raf. We'll talk about this. A Corinthian Slovene physicist named Josef.
Just scroll down to see if there is a list, though. Again, it's like literally a dozen. There's a Stefan equation, a Stefan apparatus, a Stefan.
80 scientific articles, bulletins from the Vienna Academy of Sciences, Stefan's law. Oh man!
And the thing is, I was a science nerd growing up, and I obviously would have remembered this guy if I had heard of him, but he was not in any American textbook. I just again stumbled across him on Wikipedia because
Stefan crater on the moon, bro. That's a big crater. Come on, bro. All right. The Stefan tube. All right. I'm going to deep dive into Stefan. Chris, close us out with some love.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone watching. I want to say thank you to the Booga Ball. I want to say thank you to C-sections. And I'm also thankful for decarbed weed. And much love. And God willing, see you in the next one.
I'm also thankful to all the women who didn't have C-sections that still endured and tried to have a sex life with their husband afterwards, even if it didn't work out.
And yeah, owning the Wib says something Andreas didn't know. See, you guys have doubts. You guys have so much faith in me and so much doubt in Stefan. We're gonna turn that around. You're gonna understand why we keep him around, bro, because he brings up important stuff that we need to learn. All right, love you guys.
Just not in the best way.
God bless.